Good morning, friends. Good morning, friends. Okay, so today we are going to start with your SCMP classes. See, if you have not got the material, just wait for some time. You can just attend the initial intro part and then you can collect the material. So now let's just start with the subject first. Maybe I'll give a brief intro about the subject, which will clarify some of the approaches which we are required to follow as far as the subject is concerned. Now, this subject of your SCMP is basically combination of three subjects. It is at CA inter level, you could have learnt about cost and management accounting, you could have learnt about strategic management, and there's another area called as performance evaluation. So whatever you learnt as part of strategic management, which is a theory based paper, entire concepts of that, most of them will come at final level also, or basically an understanding of that will be very critical. I also make it very clear in class 1 itself, it is 50-50 theory and 50 practical. It is not a fully practical paper, which many of you would have felt costing is a practical paper. Yes, it was till it was in old syllabus. Now it is a 50% theory paper, 50% practical paper. So you will have to be very clear on that, because some of the students don't pay attention to theory areas, will not work. In fact, the trend was the first attempt, I think it started in November 2018, that's what I remember. That time they ended up asking 90 marks of practical and 10 marks of theory. Though the syllabus indicated that it's a combination of theory and practical, but the first paper came, 90 marks was practical, some 10 marks of theory. As papers started coming in, the theory portion had went up to even 70% in one of the paper and 30% was practical. One of the latest set of paper, I think 2 attempts back, it was 70% of theory. The recent attempt was also 50-50 or 60-40 towards theory. So theory is something which you cannot ignore. Theory at times can look dry also, but nothing can be done, because if you want to score marks in this subject, you will have to have in mind that theory is something you need to prepare. Unfortunately, for group 2, when you look at your CA inter group 2, many don't clear in group 2 because of your theory based paper. I have seen past experiences where people struggle with EASSM or auditing. Unfortunately, at CA final, SCMP is the roadblock. Most of the students who are not clearing group 2, it will be because of SCMP. So I don't want to frighten you, but I want to tell you practical thing that this is an area where you cannot ignore on theory, because unless I tell you this, because the mindset is it's a practical base. In class, initially I used to spend maybe 70% of time for practical based area, 30% of time for theory based area. The time has now gone as 60-40. Still we spend more time on practical area, lesser time on theory area. The reason is simple. Theory, if I want to complete, I can complete quicker. Practical based portion, when I solve a problem, it takes more amount of time. That's the reason. It's not that the weightage is different. Amount of time which you spend could be on the higher side. The amount of time which you spend could be on the higher side as far as the practical areas are concerned, because by nature it takes more time to solve variety of questions, different category of questions we do. So different adjustments are there, because of which you end up taking more amount of time. But that does not mean theory is an area which you can ignore. In fact, in new syllabus, I don't know why ICI has done this, but theory plays a lot of importance. Even in a paper like SFM, where earlier a student was able to write entire 100 marks of practical question, now 20 marks of theory is mandatory for you to attend, because every question they end up asking a theory question. This is what has happened as far as new syllabus is concerned. Somewhere theory has gained more importance. Another thing which you need to do for SCMP is you will have to read lots. You will have to keep reading, see news, keep reading newspaper, keep browsing in internet, keep doing something. So whenever something happens in a practical world, a question on that can come in exam, or whatever concepts I am going to teach, somewhere it is basically something which if you see, you will understand it better. And most of these items you may not see. The areas which we are going to do, we do something called a Six Sigma, which you don't see as part of practical world unless you work in a Six Sigma team. So there are multiple concepts which will be there. Maybe you don't see that as part of your articleship. Rarely you will see something as part of articleship. SFM itself, lot of things are not seen as part of articles, but still you will be able to relate it, because some of the concepts you would have learnt at CA Inter, some of the things you may see in practical world, some stock market trading is there. So somewhere some linkage would be easy to do there. in this paper, when I'm talking about your SCMP, lot of things is not done as part of your articleship. So whatever you do in articleship and whatever is there here, there will be lot of differentiation. Second, what you learnt at CA intercosting, most of them I may not touch again here. When I say I may not touch again here, because it's not there in the syllabus itself. Most of the things will not be there, but still an understanding of that would be needed, because somewhere in some questions some adjustment would be from CA inter. That I have seen. Some adjustment would be based on your basics of costing. If your basics is slightly weaker, you may want to strengthen it, but still it will not be a bigger challenge. Whatever you learnt at CA intercosting, because somewhere that paper creates fear among students. I don't know why, but there is some fear which is created amongst some students that costing is a difficult paper. So that fear, whether your basics are strong, not so strong, may not matter much as far as this paper is concerned. Here and there, at least 5% weightage will have to come from that area, so it will come. Areas like standard costing, marginal costing, budgets and budgetary control, all that is done again at CA final level. Some of them I may discuss it fully itself. Some of them I am going to discuss it fully. I will be discussing them fully itself, but these are what this paper is going to do. So as far as your paper is concerned, from an exam point of view, 40% or you can say 50% theory and 50% practical. 50% theory and 50% practical. I think keep that in mind. Don't be with the notion that I don't want to prepare theory, I will go without theory preparation. If you keep doing that, nothing can be done, because, and in fact this is one paper where I have a summary of the theory, which is I think some 50 pages or so. If you are clear on those 50 pages, I can guarantee you will end up scoring 40 out of 50 as far as the theory component is concerned. So this is only one paper where if you are very clear on theory, some application obviously needs to be done. That's what you're going to practice in the class. You're going to do a lot of case studies, so that is the practice portion which you're going to do. But once you're clear on the theory concepts, if there is a clarity on theory concepts, that is kind of going to take care of that 50% of the marks. It is not direct theory. In that 50% also, maybe 25 marks is direct kind of a theory question and 25 marks is application. You will have to apply the concepts which you learn in a case study. So we are going to do case studies also. A lot of case studies would be done, and also there is a good amount of practical problems which we are going to solve. So the first thing I wanted to say is this, that theory is extremely critical. I know there is a mindset which is there and I want to change that mindset. Second thing, I'll discuss on the paper pattern. The paper pattern will have 6 questions, but there's nothing like this would be a theory question, this would be a practical question, nothing like that. The first question, 20 marks, mostly it's a 20 mark question. They'll not even split it as 2 sub question or 3 sub question. It's a 20 mark question. It is a theory question. When I say theory, it's basically a case study. It is a case study and it is mandatory to attend. It's a case study and it will be mandatory to attend. It's not, when I say theory, it's not a direct theory question. There will be a case study. They'll give a detailed case study. In that 20 marks, maybe 8 or 9 marks could be a direct theory. They'll ask what is this. So you'll have to just answer based on your memory power, understanding, and then they'll tell you to relate to the case study. So once you know the, basically it's in law, you know the provision, then you apply the provision to the various cases. So unless you know the provision, you cannot apply it. So first thing, you need to know all the provisions or all the concepts, then you apply it to the relevant case which is there. Then question 2 to 6, all are 20 marks, but this could be split as 10 plus 10. It could be split as 12 plus 8, it could be split as 14 plus 6, it could be split as 10 plus 5 plus 5, it will be there will be 2 sub questions, 3 sub questions or 4 sub questions. Whatever ICI wants to do, they can end up splitting this 20 mark question into 2 sub parts, 3 sub parts, or even leave it as one question. This could be theory, could be practical, it could be any of them. So obviously out of the 5 questions, 3 questions could be practical oriented. When I say practical part, even in the practical question, they'll end up adding the theory component. They'll end up adding the theory component. As you solve questions, you'll understand. So theory component will get added onto it. Net, it's a 120 marks paper. In that 60 marks would be theory and case studies, and 60 marks would be practical based portion. In this, obviously in this 2 to 6, you are required to attend 4 out of 5. 4 questions needs to be attended as far out of the 5. Okay. As far as the classes are concerned, what we are going to do is, it's basically 4 classes per week. The schedule is to complete till September 30. Past experience, I complete max by September 15. That's my past experience. Unless I have lot of holidays in between because of some emergency reason, I can't help it. Otherwise, normally classes get over by September 2nd week. That's the time we normally close it. I have planned for some 225 hours of classes, but I normally take 180 hours. That's the amount of time I need. So I have already provisioned extra time. So unless there are many cancellations, your classes will get over by September 15 times, and any stretch it will get over by September 30. That's the outer limit. All the classes would be recorded and given to you. So whoever is attending face-to-face class will be recording and giving the class to you. Recording is okay, but recording does not mean that you miss out on face-to-face class. That's one challenge which we keep facing, because the first class I see so many students coming in, second class or the third class your laziness starts coming in. You think, why do I wake up at 5 o'clock, why should I come to the class? So all that will not work. The discipline which gets created, because in a recorded class also you need the same amount of discipline, but the discipline is something sometimes can be lacking. So that's the only challenge. It's not that recorded classes are bad or something, but I'm not sure if today there was no class, or if I had given you a recorded class which you can watch as per your convenience, at least only 10% of the students would have taken the effort to get up and start your class by 6 to 9. That's the time you'll have to watch the class, if at all there was a recorded class. I'm not sure you would have done that, because most of you would have felt it's a lazy Sunday, so let me take rest. So that's a normal human behavior. I would have also taken rest. If today there was no class, I would have been happy, at this time mostly sleeping only. So but the discipline which will get created as part of the physical class is very, very critical. And it's not that you're going to get something extra out of physical class. Recorded, physical, both are same only. I'm not saying you're going to get extra, but the only thing is, when you come here, there's a lot of people around you. So sometimes when you watch classes, if you get demotivated, that energy comes back because you see so many students. And also there is a set pattern that you will have to prepare it at this point of time. 6 to 9 is the schedule. You will have to follow that 6 to 9 schedule. So you will have to do the class as per the given schedule. So that's as far as the face-to-face class is concerned. Recordings would be given to you. I think by next week onwards you will get clarity on how to watch the recordings, what needs to be done. Sometimes in the classes, some of the problems, not the concepts, but some of the problems, I'll give a video. So the past batch, maybe 180 hours was the class. In that I would have given some 15 hours of video. So I keep giving that. So those videos you'll have to watch as and when you do. And there would be lots and lots of homework question. I can't help it. At final level, whether you like it, you don't like it, there will be lots and lots of homework question. I think my material volume 1 and volume 2 put together could have some 500, 550 questions. Obviously impossible for me to take 550 questions in the class. Past experience, we do 400 out of that. Around 150 becomes homework. Homework doesn't mean everything would be done in the class. Every concept would have been done. In homework also you may learn some here and there, some new concepts, some small concept can be learnt as part of problem solving. So expectation from students are very simple. Attend the face-to-face class, be on time, don't miss the initial starting part, because today it doesn't matter, because today I'm just giving you from general information and then I'm going to start with the delivery of the class. But what happens is, sometimes the initial 5 minutes you miss, you are blank for the next 45 minutes or 50 minutes, because whatever I want to do for the first 50 minutes I would have explained in that first 5 minutes, and then I keep solving it. You are not understanding anything, you are looking blank. That's because you wasted that initial 5 minutes. So be on time for the class. So if you are on time for the class, at least you don't miss the initial intro. You'll be in a position to cover everything. That's one thing which is critical. Second, complete all your homework question. I know you are extremely busy, your articleship can make you busy, your other things can make you busy. You can have 100 excuses which you want to give. There's only one excuse or only one reason. If you do homework, you want to clear your chartered accountancy. That's the only reason which is there. If you give me XYZ reason, I can keep talking, I can add on to your reasons. So you may have a reason of IPL as well, you may have a reason of going for a movie, you may have a reason for your social commitments, XYZ thing. I am least interested in knowing that. If I've given you homework, expectation is you will do those homework question. And another headache is, when I give you homework question, you will say, when I'm trying homework, I don't understand anything. I'm least bothered. You don't understand anything, try it. You don't understand, still not clear, you come back to me, I'll clarify it. It's not that I'm not going to clarify your doubts. Anyway, people who have done classes with me will have the experience of asking doubts. So you can reach out to me on WhatsApp, ask your doubts. I don't have problem with any of that. So whenever you have doubts, you ask your doubts, I'll clarify them. So doubts is something, whenever you get, send a message, I'll clarify, but homework sums have to be completed. I'll also be planning some tests. They are going to be self-evaluation test. I'll give the paper, you'll have to write the test. Maybe the key comes to you in 24 hours or 48 hours. In that gap, you'll have to write the test, correct on your own. If you cannot correct on your own, you give your paper to your friend, you take your friend's paper and then correct it. Whatever way you want to do it, correction you do it, understand where you're going wrong. One thing is, when you try doing a sum on your own, you'll know the difficulty which the SCMP subject or any subject poses. Because if I am standing here and I keep guiding you, you'll feel everything is very easy. Everything is very easy. But when I tell you to do on your own, the pen itself will not write. Most of the times you are thinking what to start with. Be it not only this paper, be it any paper. That's a challenge which many students face when you try to write on your own. And the unfortunate thing is, many of you try this directly at your exam. You go to the exam and then you're thinking how to start writing it. That doesn't help. You need lots and lots of practice. You need lots and lots. The books which I have given has the solution, has the question. That does not mean that you're not going to write your notes. So in the class, we're going to solve most of the question. We're going to discuss many case studies. Case studies, maybe I'll tell you to write few points here and there, but not the detailed answer, because you cannot keep writing it, because it will take away a lot of time. So that flexibility may not be there, but lots and lots of discussion will happen as far as case studies are concerned. Practical problems you'll have to solve along with me. You will have to solve it along with me. So that needs to be done. So these three broad expectation: come on time for the class, write your test, write your do your homework question. I don't have any expectation. From my side, I'll try to provide whatever guidance you need, whatever help you need, wherever you need, wherever you get stuck. And you can be open with your feedback also. At any time you want to give a feedback, please do give it. You want to send a personal message, send it. We'll also be asking you for feedback, where it will be anonymous feedback. So whatever time, but be clear on your feedback. And another thing which I want is, in the initial few sessions itself, if you are struggling with my speed, because some students do struggle with my speed at times, I don't understand, because when I am doing it, sometimes I feel it's very simple and I go at my own pace. You could be finding it difficult, perfectly fine. Send me a message or tell it in the class itself that please tone down the speed. Because if you tell me after 10 classes, the first 10 classes are wasted, because you are not, if you are giving me a late feedback, I can use that feedback only for the later set of classes. So whatever feedback you have, please provide it on time. Most important is on the speed part. If at all you face challenge, the past few batches, I've not seen many students facing challenges, but here and there some students do face challenge. So I'll cut down on the speed wherever it is needed. In the class, okay, just give me a minute. Okay. Now, as far as the class is concerned, it has a coverage of, if you look at your page 5 of the material, no need to look at the book and all, everything is there in the screen. As of now, what is covered in the book is this: coverage till case study digest, that is something which is released by ICAI, November 2021 RTP, November 2021 MTP, July 2021 suggested answer, and latest study material issued by ICAI. This is what is covered in volume 1 and volume 2. As a practice, I keep releasing additional material. So till whatever after this had come, we have released it as part of an additional material. The additional material covers RTP till November 2021, suggested, May 20, this covers May 2022 RTP, November 2021 suggested answers, May 2022 MTP, new questions added in case study digest. So whatever ICAI has released till now, everything is covered. Everything which is released by ICAI till now, the ICAI has released May 2022 RTP, that's covered in our classes. They have released May 2022 MTP, that is covered in the classes. November 2021 suggested is released, that's covered. The May 2022 exam will happen. I keep releasing this additional material. If you see here, there are multiple additional materials. The links are there below. If you see here, this is because some of my students would have attended past batches. So the batches they would have attended could be edition 1 material or an edition 2 material, edition 3. What you have is a edition 4 material. What you have is edition 4 material. So you are using edition 4 material. On top of these, additions are there. I'll keep releasing additional material once ICAI comes out with one RTP, one MTP and one suggested answer. Moment they come out with these three, I keep releasing that, and sometimes ICAI may come with some new case studies, new case, and so whatever extra things come. One thing I can assure you is everything which ICAI has there in study material, RTP, MTP, suggested, all of that is covered in my material. I can give you 100% assurance. If some question is not there, a similar question would be there in my material. Some change in numbers could be there, but otherwise everything which is covered in the ICI resources is covered here. If you still want to follow the study material and do it, I don't have a problem. You can open study material. You may at times feel that he has just copy pasted the study material, because many a times I would have taken content from there, I would have revised it the way I wanted, but I follow ICI study material to the great extent possible. So whatever you see, and some extra questions are obviously there, a lot of additional questions are there, but we have tried to cover everything which is there in ICI resources. So technically I don't expect you to study anything apart from my material, but still if you want to open your ICI study material and see, I don't want you to open any author book and do it, because unnecessary waste of time. You will unnecessarily waste time, but still you want to do it, up to you, because some students have that curiosity, they end up referring multiple materials, you do it. But I can tell from my side that because this confidence was not there in me, maybe some 3-4 batches, not SCMP. When I used to take AMA, I used to tell them to refer ICI material, because I could not cover everything in my classes. But here everything is covered either as part of classwork or as part of homework. Everything would have been covered. From whatever you see there, you will see a question here. Sometimes I may change the chapters also. Maybe sometimes some question could be in chapter 2, it could be part of case studies chapter. There's something called as a case study chapter where it will go. So whatever is there till May 2022 RTP, May 2022 MTP, November 2021 suggested is covered in my material. Some of you could be writing your exam in November 22, some in May 23, some in November 23, some in May 24. Whenever you are writing, whatever is not covered in the class, obviously you are allowed to refer those additional RTPs, MTP suggested answer. From my side, what you may get is a material like this, a PDF like this, which will cover the additional question. So this is a 50-page material which covers this additions. So you may get a PDF like this, which is shared in my Telegram group. I'll be sharing the link of Telegram group. You'll have to be part of the Telegram group. All additions are shared there. So you can be updated about it. Whenever I'm sharing an addition, you will see a message from my side, and it is normally released once in 6 months, because ICI will come out with all of this once in 6 months. So now depending on your exam, you can do your preparation, because you will have to cover all those additional area. Sometimes for the additional area, I may come out with videos also. That is a rare scenario, but sometimes, for example, edition 3 part 1 addition was significant. So people who got my edition 2 classes, for edition 3 part 1 addition, I had shared some extra videos to them, some 20 hours of videos, because lot of additions had happened there. So when significant changes happen, you may see videos coming from my side, but if there are no significant changes, you will see only a PDF coming from my side. The PDF will cover the additions. Obviously when you go through it, you will be able to understand it. If not clear, if things are not clear, you obviously come back to me with your doubts, but covering additional material will be very, very critical. Despite all of this, I've seen one the peculiar challenge with SCMP is your exam paper most of the times doesn't have the same questions. SFM or other subjects, if you see, 60 or 70 marks of the paper would be from the past exam question. Here they keep asking new questions, they keep inventing new questions, and most of the paper which is going to come tomorrow, I at least believe that most of the paper would be from near set areas. But yeah, obviously a related concept would be done in the class. So that's where my focus is on the concept, on the theory part, on the concept and the theory part, because unless you know, because a question will come on an area called as building block model. Now the student doesn't know what is building block, then how will he answer? How will you even attempt without knowing what is building block? You cannot even try to attempt it. It is not that you can try to write some random things, that doesn't help. Random things is not going to help. ICI expects your answer to be logical. Sometimes some keywords also they expect it, but at least keywords, I'm not more bothered about the memory part of it, whether you are able to reproduce as it is. Reproducing as it is, I at least don't feel that's the objective, but from marks point of view, some areas you may have to reproduce as it is. As you keep reading theory, things will become clearer, so you will remember it, so you will reproduce it. But what is more critical is application of it, and then coming out with your conclusions out of that. So that is going to be a very, very critical part, that you arrive at proper conclusions. If you are not able to arrive at proper conclusions, you will not be able to get marks. So for getting good marks in this paper, I'm repeating, critical part is theory. Just give me a minute. Okay, this was one of the exam paper. Just to show you the paper, this was one of the exam paper. Question 1, fully theory based question. Okay, it's a fully theory based question, a 20-mark question. But if you look at the questions, some of the answers are direct copy paste from your theory area, not even application. You are not going to apply. For example, a question this: what is meant by identification of environmental cost? Nothing is there in the case study. You need not even read the case study. You can end up answering based on the theory which you learn. Analyze two environmental management accounting technique. Unless you know these two techniques, you cannot apply it. So somewhere most of this 6 forms of environmental cost classified by the working team for ABC Metals Limited, exact copy paste from the theory. So 10 marks you copy paste exactly from the theory, and 10 marks you end up writing based on your understanding. So this was a full theory based question, question 1. Answers would be extremely lengthy in ICI material, but they give a conclusion saying that conceptually correct brief explanation is sufficient. Brief explanation is sufficient. Their answers would run into multiple pages, but you are not in a position to write so much, so let's not get into that. Question 2 is practical, but if you see in practical also, only practical area is this: A1, A2 and A3, which is for 8 marks. This is fully theory. Recommend the steps to ascertain CLV of a particular customer. You learn it in theory, you will have to apply that. Whatever you learn in theory, you will have to apply that. This is also again theory. Explain these terms. This again you learn in theory, you will have to apply that. This is application of the theory. Whatever you would have learnt in theory, you need to apply. So 12 marks was for theory area, 8 marks was for the practical area in this question 2. Question 3 looks like a practical. Yes, it's practical, but again there would have been a theory part. Prepare statements. 5 marks is practical. Discuss the tax consequences. This you learn in theory. A concept you learn in theory which you need to apply here. Prepare the statement practical. Discuss behavioral issue. Again a theory based area. Again a theory based area. Evaluate how taxation while determining. Again a theory based area. So theory, practical, they'll keep combining like this. 10 marks of theory, 10 marks of practical based area. Any 5 differences between standard costing and Kaizen costing, you learn it in theory, you will have to apply that. Whatever you learn in theory, you need to end up applying that concept to some extent here. This 5 marks is practical, fully practical. 4 marks is fully practical. This 4 marks is practical. 2 and 4 marks again theory. They've added the theory component there. So every question they'll keep adding the theory component. Unless you know the theory, I'm making it very clear to you because why theory is critical. That's the reason I'm just discussing this. Question 5 looks like a practical based area. Yes, it's a practical, but there would have been a theory component. Identify a suitable approach. That's a theory based area. List the losses, theory. Calculate practical. Evaluate the effectiveness, theory based area. So 5 marks of theory, 5 marks of practical. That's how the paper would be most of the times. Question B is fully theory. That's a fully theory based area. You learn a concept called as value for money framework in a chapter called as chapter 8, I think. Chapter 7 you will learn that. So whatever you learn there, you will have to apply it here. Practical based question. 1, 2 is practical, 3, 4 is theory. 3, 4 is theory. You learn it in theory, you will have to apply it here. So net theory is going to be extremely critical. The recent set of papers have indicated this only. And some students, after facing the exam, you may sometimes get a surprise paper where they could be more focused on practical based paper. That's what happened in the first paper which ICI released. After that, they have made it clear that we are going to give almost equal focus. It started with 80-20, then became 70-30, then became 60-40. I think this paper could be a 60-40 towards theory. It could be more focused towards theory and lesser focused towards practical. Unfortunately, smart student ends up applying 80% of the time on practical based area. Focus only on that. You spend 80% of the time, and if I tell you to read theory, you say that let's not focus on it. So you somehow leave that area. If you leave theory based area, it will be extremely difficult to clear this paper. I'm making it very clear because you are not a person who can end up scoring, or you not. Anyone will find it difficult to score 40 out of 50 because it's technically 50 marks of practical based area, and scoring 40 in that is practically not possible. And even in the practical based area, one good part which has happened is most of the practical based question are very simple. Extremely simple set of question. There may not be any great adjustments there, but all would be newer set of question, but they're fairly simple. What students used to find is AMA was a paper, Advanced Management Accounting, which was the earlier paper. People were finding it to complete the paper. This subject, difficulty is not in completing, difficulty is in reading the question paper. You'll find it so much difficult to read the entire question. The first question, the case study, would be for some 2 pages. You'll have to read the entire 2 pages and then try to apply it. So that is where the challenge is going to be. You will have to read this fully and then start applying this and end up answering the paper. So the challenge here is going to be more and more. You will have to keep reading paper. When you read paper, obviously some places you will end up struggling. So that struggle could be there. Completing the paper would not be a challenge if you can quickly read things, if you can quickly read and understand things. This paper, I just need from you, for example, whatever I am going to do in the class, I don't want you to by heart it. I don't want you to remember anything. Nothing needs to be remembered. As far as the problem is concerned, as far as the case study is concerned, we will be doing some 200 to 250 case studies. Every case study will have new adjustments here and there. Some concepts would be there. I would mark it separately and tell you to read it day before exam, whatever concepts need to be read. But do I need to remember this answer fully? No. Nothing needs to be remembered as far as this. But there are certain areas like internal cost, external cost, relationship cost, contingent cost. You learn this in the theory. You learn this in the theory. Whatever you learn in theory, you will have to remember it. Come to your volume 1. Volume 1. In volume 1, there is a last day revision theory which starts with page 6 and ends on page 37. Volume 1, last day revision theory starts on page 6, ends on page 37. Nothing for you to just see it. Now listen, this technically, this 35 pages technically would help you in scoring 40 marks in SCMPE. Technically your 40 would come from here, because whatever case studies are there, unless you know these concepts, you will not be able to apply it. This is a last day revision theory. There is a detailed theory in every chapter which will run for some 100 pages. I would want you to read the detailed theory. I would want you to read the detailed theory. But what I am going to discuss in the class is the summary theory. I will be covering it in summary. I will try to explain every concept. But if you are able to read the detailed theory and revise it with the last day revision theory, you will find it easier to complete the exam paper. You will find it easier to complete the exam paper. Earlier I used to tell students just to refer the last day revision theory, but because theory is becoming more and more important in exam, I don't know. So reading 100 pages, you read in auditing I think some 400, 500 pages. Here you are just going to read some 100 pages. Some of the concepts you may have to by heart also. I will tell areas where you may have to remember it and reproduce it. Some areas I can't help it. You will have to do that. But major chunk of it, the concepts would be clear. You will understand them, but still some memory power would be needed, because concept is one part of it. Unless you remember it, you will not be in a position to reproduce it in exam. So that's going to be there. This is one component. This will help you in your last day before the exam. Second part which will help you in your last day before exam is I would have shared a summary material, SCMP summary notes. This has the summary of some 200 to 250 case studies. Whatever case studies we are going to do, just give me a minute. Okay, I showed you a 20 mark case study just some time back. The final answer to that is this. If you remember this summary which is there in page 31, no need to see in your material and all, don't see in the material, just see in the screen. So if you remember this summary, you will be, if you read this summary, you will understand what is there in the answer. Nothing needs to be remembered and all. You just, for example, if you want to revise that entire case study, I know it's difficult for you to go through that entire it will be a 3-4 page answer. It will not be possible for you to read that 3-4 page answer. First time, obviously, you will have to read those 3-4 pages. But second time, third time, when you want to revise it quickly, you will just see this. You will just see this. This will help you in revising all the case studies. Practical based portion, obviously you will have to mark. I'll tell the approach what needs to be done. I'll tell you to mark certain questions which you need to revise day before exam. Somewhere keep in mind that you will have to cover, I think my material goes for some 1000 pages. Additional material of some 150 pages. This 1150 pages in 2 days is not possible. Not even 2 days, 1.5 days. So somewhere keep in mind that you will have to do this in 1.5 days. How is it possible? Humanly not possible. So that is where all those summary notes are there. These summary notes are only mostly for your last day before revision, or when you are starting for your revision, when you have done your SCMP now, you start looking at SCMP after 6 months, it will look fresh only. It will look fresh only. Nothing can be done, because unless you keep seeing it continuously. In fact, for me also, some of the concepts I revise the day before class and I come back. It's not that I remember everything. Some of the concepts I do revise day before class and try to reproduce it here. It's not that I remember everything. I do have that flexibility of doing every concept day before class and come back, but you don't have a flexibility. You'll have to do it everything and go to the exam and then write. So somewhere keep in mind that what you want to do in that 1.5 days for all subjects. In fact, many students make notes for theory based area, that is good, but practical based papers also need notes. If you don't have notes for that, if you don't make summary notes for that, you will struggle day before exam. So keep that in mind whenever you are doing your preparation, that what are you going to do the day before exam, how are you going to complete that entire paper in 1.5 days. Regular classes will cover it fully. After that, there will be revision classes. Every batch I don't keep a revision. So my last revision happened in October 2021. That revision videos would be given to you. If I keep any fresh revision is kept, you can attend any time a revision class. Whenever any regular batch student can attend the revision whenever we keep. It could be a face-to-face revision, it could be a live online revision if I keep a revision class. If I am not keeping a revision class, obviously the videos of the earlier batch would be given to you. Even the videos of the later batches would be given to you whenever I take a revision. The only thing is, if you have validity, you will be able to watch it. So there's going to be a validity. I'll touch up on that later on. There's going to be some validity for the video. So if you have the validity, you'll be able to watch those videos as well. Revision, for example, 180 hours was our classes. Last batch we took revision, little extended revision. It went on for 60 hours. The revision went on for 60 hours. Moment you're done with your regular classes, I don't want you to technically look at anything again. If you just cover that, after 10 months you are seeing SCMP. If you go through that 60 hours, entire SCMP will be over. But some students don't watch the regular videos, don't attend the face-to-face classes, and then come back saying that I want to do it in the revision video. I at least don't advise it, because revision videos are for people who at least have some understanding of the subject, and then you do it. And obviously you can guess the pace at which those classes would go, because when I cover a regular class in 170 hours, I cover revision classes in 60 hours with almost 80-90% coverage. So it's not that the coverage is lesser there, around 80% coverage would still be there. So if 80% coverage needs to be there and time is 1/3, you can understand how much I would have cut short at places, or at what pace I would have gone in those revision classes. So revision videos also would be given to you, which cannot help you day before exam. Obviously it can help you at your, whenever you're, most of the people would start their fresh preparation when they take study holiday. So whenever you're taking your study leave, at that point the revision videos would come into picture. Now when I give the revision videos, don't end up looking at it unless you have your attempt closer by. Unless you have your attempt, if you want you can watch it, I don't have a problem, but it may not add much value at this point of time. At this point of time, regular classes, all sums, all case studies, homework, test, all that you will have to do. All that you will have to do. Once, I think in my class I spend 180 hours. You can keep a rough calculation that you will have to spend 180 hours at home. You can keep a rough calculation that you'll have to spend 180 hours at home. You're done with, when I say 180 hours, homework, your test, everything is done. If you are smart enough, you'll cover it by September 30. If you want to delay it, this 180, I said you will have to spend 180 hours at your end. That 180 will become 300 or 360, because you postpone your preparation, you will find it difficult to grasp some of the concept. Or smart students, you will not spend 300 hours, you will end up cutting down the portion. That's what people end up doing. You come back with me saying that, sir, what is important area, what is not so important area. Unfortunately, I am not a believer of priority areas. I don't believe in this is important, this is not so important. So if you come back to me saying that give me some important question, sorry, I am not a person who can give that, because students do end up coming back to me saying that give me important areas. Unfortunately, if I give important areas and it clicks in one of the exam, you'll be very happy. It doesn't click in the exam, which will most of the times happen, because nobody can predict ICA paper pattern. Student, I can give you 500 question, and in that 500 obviously questions will come. Or I will give you some 200 question, in that some 40-50 marks will obviously come. So now also if I want to give, I can give you 200 question, in that 40-50 marks will 100% come, because there are 400 question. If I give 200, the game of probability, you will end up getting 15% of the marks, but it doesn't really help. So selective preparation is something doesn't help. Again, I am repeating, I can tell you which are important areas when I am discussing, But now suddenly you will come back saying that I want to know which are the chapters I can omit, which are the chapters I have to prepare more, can I leave this concept, can I do this, can I do that? Unfortunately, I cannot help you on that. If you want any help on that, I am not the right person to help you out on that. So be very, very clear that selective preparation is not going to help. Not only SCMP, every paper. See, at least when I did my preparation, just to give, when I used to do my CA Inter at that time, so people come back to me saying that I find it difficult with articleship, I find it this. At that point of time, I had my articleship, but it was a lesser time. I used to do my articleship only from 9 to 3. And after that, I used to go for a regular evening college. I wanted to do college at that time, so I did an evening college of 3:30 to 7:45. That was possible at that time. And I used to attend my classes in the morning. The classes would be from 6:15 to 8:45. Then your office, then your college, and then your self-study. So all this was happening. I was also not very confident on theory-based area. The unfortunate thing which students do is, if you are confident on accounting, you only prepare accounting. Whereas the other thing should be done. If you are not confident on a subject, you should prepare that. But that doesn't happen, because when you start doing that, you don't like that subject, because you are not confident on that, you don't like it, you keep postponing it. The difficulty level keeps going up. The subject which is easy, the easier level keeps coming. It becomes more and more easy. Doesn't help. ICA doesn't tell you that you will have to score 10 marks in one subject and 90 marks in other paper and they'll make you pass. They don't do that. They say you will have to score minimum 14. For them, every paper is equal weightage. For you, unfortunately, you don't want to give equal weightage. It doesn't help. I ended up focusing on every paper. I did have my favorites and all, but I ended up focusing on every paper. Unless you focus on every paper, you will find it very difficult at inter level as well as at final level. I could score exemption in all paper. That is because you give equal focus in everything. Unless you give equal focus on every subject, just because maybe SCMP may take little bit more time. A theory based, the elective can take lesser time. That I can understand, because this has more concepts, that has lesser concepts. That and all can happen. But if you are finding a subject easy, don't end up, because I teach two subjects, SFM and SCMP. I know what students do. They spend a lot of time on SFM because you like it also. You sometimes link it with the practical world. Everything is fine, and you keep postponing SCMP, or you somehow start hating the subject, or because it's more of theory. Somewhere the mindset comes in. And some students end up liking SCMP, they don't like SFM. So, but whatever it is, you will have to almost give equal focus on all paper. Unless there is an equal focus on all papers, you will not be in a position to complete, and you will not be in a position to complete your chartered accountancy. Another thing is, when I did my preparation, I had a solid plan of doing revision. According to me, you should at least have 3 revisions before your exam. 3 revisions and 2 mock tests you will have to write before your exam. Where you write your mock test, up to you, but 2 mock tests and 3 revision. Now you can think what you want to do when you have your attempt, but reverse work and do 3 revisions. I had 3-4 months of study holiday. I used to keep it as 5 days per subject, 2 days per subject and 1 day per subject. That's how the 3 revisions happen, or 5, 4 and 3, something like that. So 5 days, 8 subjects, 40 days, and then some in 20 days and something in 10 days. So I used to cover it that way, and then finally the day before exam you end up reading. Despite making notes, I think 1 or 2 subjects I did not make some proper notes, or I made it, but it was, I struggled in one paper the day before exam. I did struggle in one paper the day before exam. In fact, I cried the day before. This is a true experience of mine. I'm just telling you this because people will face challenges. And you need a strong support group at that point of time. My family was the support group. The day before my IDT exam, which was the last exam, I don't know, the first 7 papers went okay, it's not went well, went bad and all. Some papers went really well, some papers went bad. I did not do any discussion after the paper got over, because somewhere, when I do discussion, I find it my answer is right, my answer is wrong. Somewhere unnecessarily the stress adds up to. Some people find it easy to manage stress. People like me find it a little difficult to manage stress. I am not a person who can do things at the last moment. I find it difficult. Today class also, it was to start at 6. I was there at 5:30 because I cannot struggle at 5:55 and then try to get the laptop ready, try to get the connection ready, the light, electricity. So all those issues I cannot manage at the last minute. So I'm a person like that. Some people find it easy to manage things at the last minute. It's up to you personally. But I did have that plan. Still, all that after doing 3 revision, the day before exam, things were becoming totally blank. I could not understand anything in IDT at that point of time. And this is a true, honest experience of mine. Obviously there was one day holiday in between exam, so somewhere I cried, I could not manage it. I somehow passed that night, and the next day somehow I started regaining the energy. Obviously the support group helped, my parents helped me, my sisters helped me, so somewhere that did help me at that moment. So have a strong support group, talk to positive people, discuss with your friends, have a study plan, everything is okay, but keep preparing, keep preparing, keep preparing. Irrespective of when is your attempt, try to spend 2.5 years on this course. I don't know, some of you could be even writing in November 22, some of you could be writing in May 23, whatever time you have. After chartered accountancy, does the struggle end? I don't say the struggle ends, but still I am very happy after clearing my chartered accountancy. A lot of things have changed in my life. Be it on the financial side, be it on the non-financial side, how the society looks at you. Lot of things have changed. I somehow feel the struggle which I went through in those 3.5 years, I'm extremely happy with that. If you don't struggle for, see, you need to put in 80% efforts in 3.5 years. If you don't put in, ICA will make you put 40% effort in 7 years. They'll make the double the time. You end up writing multiple attempts. You end up again spending time. I am telling you to spend time once. You are not ready to spend once. It ICA will say, okay, don't spend it once. Spend 50 times, 50% this time, 50% next, 50% next, 50%. You keep spending more and more time. You will get frustrated. People come back to me saying that. This question in the exam paper also this happens. Sometimes ICA ends up asking illogical question. Sometimes the solution of ICA becomes illogical. So despite all that, in a 100-mark paper, I can tell you 10 marks would be like that. Now student comes to me saying that those 10 marks ICA went illogical, this issue, that issue. I don't know, I empathize with them, but somewhere the student doesn't focus on that 90 mark. So technically you will have to think about that 90 which is in your hand, don't think about 10. So there's a luck factor which is needed. So everybody has that luck factor, so you need that luck to some extent. So think about that, have belief in something, some luck factor would be needed in this course. So that is finally needed also. It's not that I say hard work, smart work, everything is needed. Some luck factor will obviously help you, all that will be there. But the point is, worry about things which are in your control. Don't worry about things which are beyond your control. If suddenly says ICA makes the passing marks at 90, it's not in your control. So don't try to fight it with them now saying that why did they make 90? They're not going to do something like that. But things which are beyond your control, don't try to fight it with them. It's not that I'm not saying, see, to be honest, after clearing my chartered accountancy, I've gone to CA Institute, but I've never tried to participate anything there. Technically, I got my membership, I pay my membership fee, and the association kind of is at that stage only for me. Some people may try to associate in CA Institute activity, all that can be done. Whatever I have learnt in chartered accountancy, did it help me in my employment? Yes, it did help me in my employment because I was in a job which needed some understanding of SFM. Did what I learned in an area called as information systems or EISSM help me? At that point of time, it did not help me. So one, you need that qualification. You need that qualification because moment the qualification is there and you get your first job. After that, nobody is bothered whether you are a chartered accountant, you are not a chartered accountant. After getting your first job, your CA degree is of no use. I got a rank at CA final, that helped me only in getting my first job, that's all, okay. After that, whether you are a 5-attempt person or whether you clear it in the first attempt with a rank, it doesn't matter. Obviously, it matters for your first interview. Again, I'm telling you, first interview, first job, it will matter. But after that, it doesn't really matter. So somehow, whatever way you want to do it, how much ever struggle you want to do it, don't have self-pity on you, okay, because my friend is going for a movie, I'm not going, he's enjoying. So at this point of time, I enjoy. I see some of my friends are not enjoying. Now I have reached a stage where I used to earlier balance my employment and classes. Now I'm fully into classes. So I take classes from 6 to 9. After that, I'm mostly free. So I enjoy my life at this point of time. So now whatever struggle I had in the past, because I used to balance both classes as well as office, it used to be again a challenge. That happened for some 10 years after my chartered accountancy. I cleared my CA in 2010. November 2010 is when I cleared. For 10 years, I was working in a company. I did that. But now I'm very happy. I have time for a lot of things. And I'm very happy with whatever I'm doing also, because my passion was teaching, I'm doing teaching. So that is also something which excites me. So you have good amount of still another 30-40 years of life, whatever is there. But the point is that struggle of 3.5 years, please do it. And don't try to talk to people who are negative. Please, they will have lots of complaints with ICAI. Don't talk to chartered accountants who have cleared it in multiple attempts, also who have cleared it in the first attempt. Don't take any guidance from them. People who have cleared, would want to make it look like they have done a great thing, and they'll make it that this is an extremely difficult course. People who have not cleared also is going to tell the same thing. It's an extremely difficult course because of which they could not clear it. And they'll try to put blame game on ICI. There are a lot of challenges. I'm not denying any of them. But it doesn't really help because your goal is very clear. You need that degree. You need that chartered accountancy degree. You need some understanding. So, for example, whatever I learnt in income tax, I'm not using them in the practical world. Sometimes it helps me. In fact, the unfortunate thing is, a lot of my relatives ask me doubts only in income tax and GST, which I have no idea on. But people practically feel you are a chartered accountant. They expect you to know about taxation. Unfortunately, I end up struggling answering that. But somewhere that understanding at least helps you. So it's not that everything which you learn you're going to apply in the practical world. You're going to apply in your employment. Some of you could be going for practice. Some of you could be going for employment. So whatever thing you do, again, I initially wanted to make it very, very clear that please struggle for the next 2 years, 3 years, whenever is your attempt, whatever is your attempt. First attempt, you'll have to clear both the groups. Be very clear in your mind. At least have that mindset. Later on you want to change your mindset, that's different because some people write group wise, but at least have the mindset of writing both the groups, clearing it in the first attempt. That's the only thing I want from you guys. Have that commitment. Prepare, struggle. You should say, your parents should be surprised what happened to this person, why is this person studying so much. You should tell your friends that you are not ready to, and you give yourself goals. So if you do this, you will go for a movie. Go for a movie, I don't have a problem. If you complete this, you will go for a trip. But unfortunately, you end up spending time on your Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. All that doesn't really help after a point of time. So don't end up spending so much time on all of that and spending time on the subject. 8 subjects, you will have to clear it in the first attempt. Some of you could have completed one group. Maybe if you have completed one group, you will have to complete that balanced group. But please focus on this. Moment you have cleared, you'll at least start with a salary of 6 lakh. That's the minimum I have seen people. So start with a salary of 6 lakh per annum. You keep growing your salary, be happy with it. Some people have ambition in life. I didn't have much ambition. So I left my corporate job when I could have grown further also. But I had something in my mind saying that let me have a relaxed life at this point of time. So I relaxed. I came out of my corporate life and I'm happy. I'm also not gone into practice. Some of people advise me to get into practice, but I have not done any of that. I'm happy with teaching. I'm happy because I get time. I spend time with my kids. I spend time with my family, and that's my personal goal. So different people will have different goal. People want to grow in an organization. You want to do whatever is your goal. But for the next 2 years, please keep this in mind that you want to clear chartered accountancy. Nothing beyond that. Don't be in the company of people who are demotivating you. If there are people who are demotivating you, please don't compare yourself with others also. If you do comparison, that's all. If I do comparison because I was a ranker at that time, I know people who are not ranker are earning more than me at this point of time. I know people like that. So if I keep doing this comparison and all, there's no end to the comparison which you can do. There are students of mine who earn more than me at this point of time. So I cannot say that this guy who learned from me is now earning more than me. So if you do comparison or if you do all this, it's not going to help. So be happy with life, and for the next 1 year, focus on chartered accountancy. I'll now get into the subject. So let's first start with. Okay, now your subject has 12. There's nothing to look in the material. I'll tell you when to look at in the material. Okay, you can just see the screen for the time being. Your subject has 12 chapters. 6 chapters are there in volume 1. Next 6 chapters are there in volume 2. Technically, it's 11 chapters, not even 12 chapters. 11 chapters. The 12th chapter is case study, which ICI asks. And ICI in their syllabus, when they gave the syllabus, they said note. Students should have an understanding of learning curve and linear programming. That's a note which they gave. This learning curve and linear programming, these two areas, ICI keeps adding a question either in chapter 1 or chapter 3 or chapter 5 or chapter 7 or chapter 8. So the first doubt which students many times ask me is learning curve and linear programming part of syllabus? Yes, it's part of syllabus, but you will not find that in ICI study material. You will not find that in ICI study material. You will find one question on linear programming, I think in chapter 5. Somewhere it will get clubbed in one of the question, and one question on learning curve, I think in chapter 6 it will get clubbed there. So questions will come in exam from that area. So you may see in the material, I think 6 chapters, and there in the next material you may end up seeing, I think 8 chapters will be there. In that, those 2 chapters are not technically part of the ICI study material, but there's a note which is given which said you need an understanding of learning curve and linear programming. Unfortunately, those 2 topics you don't do at CA Inter. If you do at CA Inter, I could have left it here. You don't do at CA Inter, so you will have to cover that as part of the classes. chapter 1, just give me a minute. Your chapter 1 is fully theory based area. You want to mark, you can mark it. Chapter 1 is fully theory, there is no practical portion itself. It's a fully theory dominated area. Chapter 2, 3, 4, combination of theory and practical. Combination of theory and practical. You will have a combination of theory and practical portion as far as this chapter is concerned. Some part of theory will be there and some part of practical portion would be there. Predominantly practical. Decision making is predominantly practical. Some portion of theory oriented areas there, but predominantly practical. Predominantly practical. Theory and practical. Pricing decision is also theory and practical. Chapter 1 exclusive theory based chapter. 2, 3, 4 theory and practical combination. 5 is fully practical based area. 6 is fully theory and practical. In that, today I am going to start with a decision making chapter. I am going to start with decision making chapter. This is basically an extension of marginal costing. An extension of marginal costing which you would have learnt at CA inter level. What I also do is, every chapter I split into sub components. For example, decision making is split as basics of marginal costing, activity based CVP analysis, CVP analysis in services and non-profit organization, relevant costing, indifference point, limiting factor, make or buy, special order. So you kind of split the chapter into multiple subparts. That is what I normally end up doing. So in the subparts today, I am going to start with an area called as relevant costing. We are going to start with an area called as relevant costing. That's the area we are going to do in the first session. We are going to start with relevant costing today. Now, let's first understand the concept. I think one of the most important concept for the purpose of decision making is relevant costing. You want to make some running notes, you make it. If some notes are needed, I will tell you when to write, but most of the things would be covered in the material, but somewhere if you have to make notes, I will let you know. Okay, now listen. What is relevant cost is something which is going to impact the decision in hand, something which is relevant for the purpose of decision making. Any decision you take, if some factor is relevant for the decision you take, it's called relevant cost. Let me give an example. You bought a movie ticket. The cost is 250 rupees per ticket. You have paid for the ticket. You got the movie ticket. You were to go today morning. Unfortunately, I kept costing classes. You are not able to go for the movie and you have to come for the class now. A friend of yours or a relative, you don't have any use with the ticket, okay, now you are not able to sell it to anyone. You are not able to sell it to anyone, or you are not able to give it to any of your friends, relatives. So somebody comes and asks you for the ticket for 40 rupees. He comes and asks you to give it for 40 rupees, okay. He says, can you give me this ticket for 40 rupees? Would you sell it for 40? Would you sell it for 40? 250 was the movie ticket. Yes, no, with a reasoning.
Because at least I'll be able to minimize my loss with 40 rupees.
Okay.
I'm not able to sell it to anybody, so fully it's a loss.
Okay.
But I'll be able to at least minimize my loss.
Okay, so you will sell it for 40 to minimize the loss. Anyone else? Yes, no. Okay, so whatever. So bargain and you want to increase the price. Hey, assume I am the other side. I don't want to pay anything more than 40. I am the other side person. I am not ready to pay anything more than 40. So what will you do? Go with 40. Would you sell the ticket for 40? Practically 99% won't do it. You would not do it because your ego won't allow you to do it. It's mostly the ego at that point of time because you bought it for 250. You don't want to sell it for 40. Relevant costing will say please sell it for 40 because the relevant cost of the movie ticket is 0 rupees. The cost of the movie ticket, moment you purchase the movie ticket, the cost of the movie ticket is 0 technically because you don't have a use for the ticket. You don't have a use for the ticket. If there was a use, I agree to a value. But moment you have purchased the ticket and you can't do anything with that movie ticket, it is technically the relevant cost is 0. By selling it for 40, you make a profit of 40 rupees. You make a Profit of 40 rupees is what relevant costing will tell. The relevant costing will tell you are basically making a profit of 40 rupees and not a loss of 210 rupees, or as she said, your loss could have been 250, now you reduce the loss to 210. So technically you are making a profit of 40 rupees. Technically you are making a profit of 40 rupees. In the same example, if I say there was another person who is ready to buy it for 80 rupees, if you have someone else, then the relevant cost of that movie ticket is 80, because that's the opportunity cost. That is the opportunity cost, because there is someone who is ready to buy it at 80 rupees. If somebody is ready to buy a ticket, I don't have a problem. But if you are not able to find a buyer, when you are not able to find a buyer and you are not ready to let your ego, then you will end up suffering a higher loss. I am saying in a practical world, many may not sell it, I may also not sell it, but the logical decision is to sell it. Most of the time emotions play a part, your emotions play a part rather than, because your mind is not rational. At that point of time you don't think logically, you are not able to think logically because you have got it at 250, you are already irritated because you are not able to go for the movie, and on top of that somebody asks for 40 rupees, your irritation level further increases. So you are not ready to sell it for 40, whereas the logical thing is to sell that ticket for 40 rupees. So what relevant costing is going to say is what is relevant for the purpose of decision making. What is relevant for the purpose of decision making? I am planning to set up a factory in Chennai. Tatas are planning to set up. The cost of the factory is 500 crores. So it's a huge project. So before doing this project, I want to know whether there is demand for my product. Because my plan was to sell it in Chennai only. So what I did is, I did a market survey. I appointed one person, told him to do a market survey. He did the market survey and gave me a report. I had to pay him 1 crore rupee. I have to pay him 1 crore rupee for doing a market survey. Based on the market survey, I will decide whether to do this project or not. I'll decide whether to do this 500 crores of investment or not. So he gave me the report. The report has come to me. Then you learned capital budgeting. So when you do your capital budgeting, you do initial outflow, in between flow, terminal flow, calculate NPV, positive, negative, all that you do. So he gave the report and all. Now you are deciding to do the NPV analysis. You wanted to do NPV. In the NPV analysis, when you do, is this 1 crore a relevant expenditure? Is this 1 crore on market survey a relevant expenditure related to that factory which you are going to set up? You are planning to set up a factory. For that only you did a market survey. It is done for the purpose of setting up the factory. So you did a market survey for the purpose of setting up the factory. Now I want to know whether it is relevant or not, that 1 crore rupee. Okay, it's a sunk cost. Okay, any other answer? Why not relevant? Okay, sunk cost I don't understand, but most of you may not understand it, some of you could understand it, but why no?
Because it's already spent, it's over. The result is positive or negative has no impact. The cost spent on this market survey is already over. Getting the NPV as positive or negative is what is required for the future, and that will only decide whether what has to be spent further. This is already done, and whatever is the result, it's not going to impact our business.
So then MD shouts at me saying that why did you waste 1 crore? What do I answer him?
So provide this shouting part will come only when it is negative and it is not going
Okay,
to
assume the final answer is negative and you are not doing the project. So the MD is asking why you are saying irrelevant cost. I understand your logic and all. You are saying irrelevant cost. Then why did we spend this 1 crore? Or how is it not related to the project?
It is no irrelevant in the sense it's not a waste cost. Rather, it is like that does not play any part in our future decision making.
Okay.
So it is already spent and it's already over. It is a base work that we have done for a future project.
Okay.
But it has no relevancy as to whether it has to be included in the decision making or not. There is no relevancy for that cost.
Okay,
So
ठीक है.
that's why it's like
Okay, so broadly it is fine. The explanation is correct. It's a sunk cost. Technically, what I do for analyzing a relevant cost is, what are we deciding? Setting up factory. This is the decision. Okay. Think in your mind, what is the decision you are taking? Okay. Setting up factory. You do yes. You put a no. Always keep this in mind. That's the only thing which you do in relevant costing. Keep this in mind. If you set up the factory, do you need to pay 1 crore to that person? Person who did the market survey.
Yes.
If you don't set up the factory, do you need to pay 1 crore to that person? You will have to pay 1 crore in both the side. If it's 1 crore in both the side, it is an irrelevant cost.
If it's 1 crore in both the sides, it is an irrelevant cost. It is an irrelevant cost because you have to pay 1 crore on both the sides. If you are paying 1 crore to the other person, you cannot tell him that your report is useless to me, I am not going to pay you. Some question will give information saying that you are planning to do a market survey, but you have not paid for the market survey. The other person has done the market survey, but you have not paid for it. Still it is an irrelevant cost. Still it is an irrelevant cost. Why it is an irrelevant? Because if you set up the factory, you will have to pay 1 crore. Not set up the factory, again pay 1 crore. You will have to pay that money. You cannot say that I am not setting up the factory, so I don't want to pay you 1 crore. Another example, I do a market survey. I tell the guy that you give me the report. If based on the report I do the project, I will pay you 2 crore rupees. But if I decide not to do the project, I will pay you only 50 lakhs. If I decide to do the project, I will pay you 2 crore rupees. But if I decide not to do the project, I will pay only 50 lakh rupees. Now, practically nobody would like to give us such a contract because the other person would give only positive answers so that he can get 2 crores. The survey may end up giving all positives. But let's assume this is the agreement. The agreement says I will pay you 2 crore rupees if I use your report and do the project. Else I will pay you only 50 lakh rupees. Can you tell me what is the relevant cost here? 2 crore 50 lakh, 2 crore 50 lakh, 1 crore 50 lakh. What is the relevant cost? No. What is the relevant cost? 1 crore. The relevant cost is yes side you spend 2 crore, no side you spend 0.5 crore. S minus no is the relevant cost always. S minus no is the relevant cost. 50 lakhs you have to pay irrespective of whether you do the project or not. 50 lakhs you will have to pay irrespective of whether the project is done or not. Extra 1.5 crores you will have to pay only if you do the project. Only if you do the project. Clear? Any doubts in this? This is a simple explanation of relevant costing. This is what I will end up doing mostly. The first area is relevant cost of material. I will tell you the page number. You want to make notes directly, you make it in the material itself, or you want make running notes, whatever way. I will just give you the page number. Just give me a minute. Volume 1, page 312. You will have to carry both volume 1 and volume 2 to the classes because I will be parallelly doing 2 areas. You will understand as we proceed. First class I am doing only relevant costing. Next class onwards, 2 hours would be a practical based portion, 1 hour could be a theory based portion. I may mix it. So, relevant cost of material, page 312. Relevant cost is one which varies between alternative course of action. What is alternative course of action? Is doing the project, not doing the project. You are going ahead with the project and not going ahead with the project. If there is any difference in the cost, it is a relevant cost. For example, that movie ticket example, in that movie ticket, if you sell the ticket or not sell the ticket, the amount 250 is already gone. Your amount 250 is already gone. You can't do much about it. Unless there was an agreement saying that I will buy the movie ticket, and if I am able to tell that other person, if I am not able to come for the movie, I will return the ticket and I will not pay you. If at all some provision like that was there, then I may not sell the ticket for 40 rupees because there the relevant cost will be entire 250 because I can get back my money 250 from that theatre owner itself. I can give the ticket and get the money back. So, if at all that option was there. Now, coming to relevant cost of material, it is there in the theory part. You first understand the application. First thing you need to do is material available, material not available. I am planning to do a project, okay. For that project, I need some 10 different raw material A, B, C, D. Material A I may have in the company. Material B I don't have in the company. Material C I have. If you have material available, if you don't have material not available, that's the scenario. If material is not available in the company, relevant cost is equal to replacement cost. Very simple. Material not available, go buy it from the market and pay the money. That money what you pay is called replacement cost. The money which you pay is called replacement cost. So, if material, it is there in the theory part, you want to make notes there, you want to make running notes, up to you, whatever way you want to do. Relevant cost is replacement cost. If material is not available or material not in stock, some terms could be different there, but broadly this is the explanation. Relevant cost is equal to replacement cost. Okay, I need the material, it's there in the company, it's there in the company. There are two types of material you will have: fast moving, slow moving. Two types of material, fast moving and slow moving, or fast moving is also known as regularly used material and slow moving is called irregular use material. Regular use, irregular use, fast moving and slow moving are the two types of material which you can have. So you needed material A for the project. Okay, what happened is this is a regularly used material in the company. This is a regularly used material in the company. A company may do project 1, project 2, project 3, project 4, so many projects will be there in the company. Project 5 owner, what he did is he got the material. He got the material and kept it in the company. He purchased it at 12 rupees. Purchase price. Okay. I want to use this material for my project. I am project 6 owner. Project 5 owner got the material and kept it in the company. He wanted to use it for his project. He will be using it in next 5 days. He plans to use it after 5 days. I suddenly come and say that I wanted to use it tomorrow. He says, I don't have a problem. You use it, but please buy new material and give it to me. You use it and please buy new material and give it to me. So for a fast moving material, the relevant cost is replacement cost. Logic is simple. So what, listen, purchase price, this is historical purchase price 12. Today purchase price is 15. Today the purchase price is 15. Your absorption costing will say raw material cost 12 rupees into 100 units because you purchased it at 12. You purchased it at 12. That material only you are going to use. But relevant costing will say it's not 12 rupees, it is 15 rupees. Relevant cost will say it is 15 rupees because the worth of that material today is 15 rupees. The worth of that material today is 15 rupees. You are planning to, so the project 4 owner can only do me one help. He can tell you use the material but give me the new material. Give me the new material. He says, no, I cannot give you the material and all. Then he says, you buy the material from the market. That's the only thing which can happen in the practical world. If you are not ready to replace this material and give it to him, then you will have. So what happens in a fast moving item is, in a fast moving side, yes, no. In a yes side, yes means you do the project. If you do the project, use the material and replace it. Use the material and replace it. Why you have to replace? Because you want to use it for some other project. You want to use it for some other project. No means use the material for other project. You will directly use it for the other project. So relevant cost of a fast moving material is replacement cost. Relevant cost of a fast moving material is replacement cost. It does not matter whether you purchased it at 5 rupees, 10 rupees, 15 rupees. What is the worth today? Sometimes the worth can come down also. Sometimes the worth can come down also. If it comes down, you use that lower value. If the worth goes up, in your historical costing, you will be forced to answer it as 12 rupees. But relevant costing will say take it as 15 rupees, 18 rupees, 100 rupees, whatever is the number. Second scenario, it's a slow moving item. What a slow moving item is, that material has no use. So I have 500 units in the company. I go to the stock, I go to the stores and speak to the storekeeper that I want to use 500 units of this. He is very happy now, because this material was of no use. This material was of no use because it was not used for any project. The slow moving material was not planned to be used for any project. So what happens in a slow moving material is, you have 3 situations. Can be sold. Can be sold. So I went to the storekeeper. I said I want to use this 500 units. He says we purchased this for 20 rupees. We purchased this for 20 rupees. But what you do is, in your costing, please take 4 rupees as the cost, because today I was planning to sell this for 4 rupees. I was today planning to sell this 500 units for 4 rupees. Because you have come and using the material, the cost of this 500 units is 500 into 4. Cost of 500 units is 500 into 4. The can be sold means relevant cost is realizable value. Realizable value. If you can sell this, the relevant cost is realizable value, because if you do the project, you will lose the opportunity of selling it. You will lose the opportunity of selling it. You cannot sell this now. You cannot sell this now. Earlier there was an option of selling it. Now you cannot sell it. So you lose that opportunity. The relevant cost is realizable value. The relevant cost is realizable value. Clear? Any doubts on this? Second option is can be used as substitute. You had material A in stock. You wanted 500 units of material A for your project. You looked at the material, you went to the storekeeper. I asked the storekeeper, I want to use this material. He says, we normally don't have any use of this, but suddenly the another project manager wanted to use this in place of material C. In place of material C. I normally don't need this material, but he was planning to use this for the purpose of material C. What you can do is you can use this material and buy him material C and give. You can use this material, but buy him material C and give, because he was planning to use this in place of material C. What is the cost of material C? Some 12 rupees. Let's assume some 12 rupees. So, if the material can be used as a substitute, the relevant cost is cost of substitute. The relevant cost is cost of substitute. The relevant cost is cost of substitute, because what will happen is moment you use it for your project, you will have to buy that material C for some other project. You will have to buy that material C for some other project. Sometimes both options will be there. That is, you can sell it, you can also use it as a substitute. Now ignore relevant costing for the time being. I had 500 units in stock. I can sell this for 4 rupees. This new project and all ignore for the time being. No new project, nothing. You can sell this for 4 rupees, or you can use it as a substitute for material C, which costs 12 rupees. You can sell it for 4 or use it as a substitute which will cost 12 rupees. Ignore relevant costing, everything. If you are the storekeeper, what will you do with this material? Sell or use as a substitute? Why use as a substitute? Because the saving is more than what you get. So if both options are there, higher of the two. The relevant cost is higher of the two, because what you would plan to do is use it as a substitute. So you lose the opportunity of using it as a substitute. Relevant cost of material, in stock, out of stock replacement cost, in stock fast moving, slow moving, fast moving replacement cost, slow moving can be sold, can be used as a substitute, both option, can be sold realizable value, can be used as a substitute, cost of substitute, both option higher of 2. Both option is higher of 2. Any doubts on this? No, the replacement cost is of material A. Cost of substitute is the replacement cost of material C. So technically, I see why replacement cost does not come into picture for a slow moving item is you are not planning to buy it again. Nobody would want to buy material A again because it's already slow moving. You want to somehow remove this from the company. Your objective is to remove this from the company. 2 options of removing it. You can sell it or use it as a substitute. Suddenly third option comes. Let the third option come. In the third option, I am only saying I want to at least get so much. So use that as the relevant cost in the calculation. Any doubts on this? Whenever I am doing a problem on material costing, relevant cost of material, I will ask 2 questions. First is the material in stock or out of stock? If it's out of stock, simple, relevant cost is replacement cost. If the material is in stock, I ask again a question. Is it a fast moving item or is it a slow moving item? And in slow moving, you can further go and understand what is the scenario. Come to page 339. Volume 1, page 339. Zero value. That is that movie ticket you are saying. Movie ticket is going to expire in next 4 hours. The movie ticket will technically expire in 4 hours because it has a value only till. So if something is going to expire and you are not able to do anything else. So it depends. In that movie ticket example, if you have an option of selling it to someone else, then the relevant cost is some 80 rupees or 100 rupees. If you don't have an option to sell it to anyone, then the relevant cost is 0. Technically the relevant cost. So if I have a product which is going to expire in the next 6 hours or 8 hours, if you have a seller available, that's the relevant cost. You don't have a seller available, the relevant cost of that product is 0. please use it so that you don't dispose it. If you are not using it, then please dispose it after some time. That's all. That is what will happen for a product which is going to expire. See, simple thing you need to know is, what are you planning to do with that material? Assuming this project was not there, what will you do with that material? You can sell it, you can use it as a substitute, or you can wait and allow it to expire. So if it's expired, then the relevant cost is 0 for that product. X Limited, question 16. X Limited has been approached by a customer who would like a special job to be done for him and is willing to pay 22,000 for it. The job would require the following material A, B, C and D. B is used regularly by X Limited. If stocks are required, they would need to be replaced to meet other production demand. C and D are in stock as a result of previous excess purchase, restricted use. No other use could be found for material C, but material D could be used as a substitute for 300 units of material E. What are the relevant cost of material in deciding whether or not to accept the contract? Assume all other expenses to be specially incurred besides the relevant cost of material is rupees 550. Go through the question. Just sign the sheet, no, just pass it on to everyone. Just sign, whoever has got the material, please sign it. Just pass it on to everyone. If your name is not there, please add the name. Some of the latest registration, we couldn't add the name there. Okay, let's start doing this. The requirement is to find the relevant cost of material. What are the relevant cost of material and deciding whether or not to accept the contract. The decision is not asked in the question, they just want us to calculate the relevant cost of material. Let's start. Relevant cost statement. Relevant cost statement of the special job. Relevant cost statement of the special job. Relevant cost statement of the special job. Of special job. Particulars calculation amount. Particulars calculation amount. Whenever I do a question, sincere request, don't look at the answer. Don't look at the answer in the material. Material has the solution. Please don't look at that. Let's start with material A. Material A. Material A. Now, in order to do the project, I need 1000 units of material A. I need 1000 units of material A. Is it in stock, out of stock? Out of stock. Out of stock. Simple. Relevant cost is replacement cost. Material A, replacement cost are 1000 into 6 in bracket replacement cost. Calculation be a little broader column. 1000 into 6 replacement cost. Sometimes the exam question would ask you to write an explanation also. Why you are considering this? The solution will have explanation for everything. There will be an explanation saying that material A is out of stock and hence the relevant cost is the replacement cost. So sometimes if I need an explanation, I'll tell you to write, but broadly without explanation, we can manage few of the adjustment. Material A, relevant cost is 1000 into 6. We don't have anything else there. No stock. Material B. Material B. In stock, out of stock? In stock. think again. Partly in stock, partly out of stock, partly in stock and partly out of stock. I'll write an explanation. First problem, write note 1. Note 1. Material B, note 1. The project needs 1000 units of this material. The project needs 1000 units of the material. Units already in stock is 600. Out of stock portion is 400. Now write material B is partly in stock, and partly out of stock. Partly in stock and partly out of stock. Partly in stock and partly out of stock. Relevant cost for out of stock portion. Relevant cost for out of stock portion. Out of stock portion in bracket 400 units. Out of stock portion in bracket 400 units is replacement cost. Replacement cost 400 into 5. 400 into 5, 2000. 400 into 5, 2000. This is for the out of stock portion. Material B is fast moving item. Somewhere it's mentioned regularly used. Material B is regularly used. Material B is fast moving item. Fast moving item. And hence the relevant cost for material in stock. Relevant cost for material in stock. Relevant cost for material in stock is replacement cost. You need not write this detailed explanation. We could have directly written the answer also. Being the first problem, I am just giving you the explanation. 600 into 5, 3000. For the fast moving item, the relevant cost is replacement. Logic is simple. Use it and buy it again. Use it and buy it again. Total relevant cost of material B 5000. Total relevant cost of material B 5000. Relevant cost of material B 5000. We could have directly written the answer also saying replacement cost. Any doubts on this? Material C. Material C. I need 1000 units. In stock we have 700 units. In stock we have 700 units. So partly in stock, partly out of stock. For out of stock, the relevant cost is replacement cost. For out of stock, the relevant cost is replacement cost, which is basically 4 rupees. For the in stock portion, material C, fast moving, slow moving. C and D are in stock as a result of excess purchase. And they have restricted use. So there is no use of this material. Technically, there is no use of this material. No other use could be found for material C. So I don't have any use of material C, but when you look at the table, they have given realizable value. So it can be sold. Basically, they are saying it cannot be used as a substitute. Basically, they are mentioning it cannot be used as a substitute, but it can be sold. Sale option is there. So for the in stock portion, the relevant cost of a slow moving item which can be sold is realizable value. I don't have a choice of using it as a substitute. Because nowhere the question has mentioned option of using it as a substitute. So now write note 2.
material C is partly in stock and partly out of stock, partly in stock and partly out of stock, partly out of stock. Relevant cost for out of stock portion, I think 300 units. Out of stock portion, for out of stock portion is replacement cost. Relevant cost for out of stock portion is replacement cost. Replacement cost 300 into 4. 300 into 4, 1200. Out of stock portion is replacement cost 300 into 4, 1200. Material C is a slow moving item, and can only be sold, relevant cost for in stock portion, is realizable value. Realizable value 700 into 2.5. Realizable value 700 into 2.5. 1750. Total relevant cost of material C 2950. Total relevant cost of material C 2950. Relevant cost of material C 2950. Material C is 2950. Any doubts on this? Okay, you think about material D and let me know what is the relevant cost. Think and let me know what is the relevant cost. I'll discuss it. But you give it a try. Material D, give it a try. Think, let me know what is the relevant cost for material D. Okay, one answer I've got is 7.5 per unit. Any other answer? Relevant cost of material D. Whatever makes sense to you, I want you to at least participate. Give me an answer. Right? 5 per unit. Okay. Any other answer? Right, wrong doesn't really matter to me. 5 is one answer I've got. 7.5 is another answer. Any other answer? How much? 5 rupees. Okay. 5 at least I don't understand the logic. 7.5 understood. If you are thinking of 5, then it should have been 6. No, it is higher of realizable value and cost of substitute. No, if you are thinking about 5 as an answer, I'll come to 7.5 in a minute. But if you are thinking 5 is the answer, then here what they said is no other use could be found for material C. Material D could be used as a substitute. Okay. But if you look at the above table, there's a realizable value also given. So higher of the two, if I go 5 and 6, it has to go to 6. But it's not 5 and 6, it is 7.5 and 6. It is 7.5 and 6. I'll come to 7.5 in a minute. Ignoring, okay, let's not look at the overall number. See, if you sell it 200 into 6, you will get 1200.
200 into 6, you will get 1200. No other use could be found for material C, but material D could be used in another job as a substitute for 300 units of material E. It's not necessary that it always has to be 1:1 kind. Sometimes what can happen is material D can substitute 2 units of material E or 3 units of material E. So, if you use as a substitute, you save 300 into 5,500. You save 300 into 5, which is 1500, divided by 200 units is 7.5. That's where that 7.5 came. That's where that 7.5, and 7.5 is the right answer. It could be used as a substitute for 300 units of material E. This problem, it was very clear. Some problem, if there is a confusion, then I may have to make an assumption saying that it is only 1 unit replacing 1. If it was 1 unit replacing 1, then the relevant cost is 6 rupees. Then the relevant cost is 6 rupees, because I don't want to use it as a substitute and save 5 rupees. I need to decide whether I want to save money or earn the sale value. You can earn the sale value if you want, which is 6 rupees, 200 into 6. Between 200 into 6 and 300 into 5, I'll obviously choose 300 into 5. I'll obviously choose 300 into 5, because both the options are available to me. Unless somebody says, no, it can't be 300 into 5, it can be only 200 into 5, then it is 200 into 6 is better. But I think question is very clear. Material C could be used in another job as a substitute for 300 units of material E, which currently cost 5 per unit, of which the company has no units in stock at the moment. That line in fact is not needed, but they have added that line. If that line, what clearly tells you is that if you are using this material D for the contract, use it and immediately buy 300 units. Use it and immediately buy 300 units. If that line said of which the material company has stock of so much, still use it and buy it again, because that could be a regularly used material. That could be a regularly used material. That line doesn't really matter whether you have stock of material E or not. So, now write note 3, material D, note 3, material D is in stock, and is a slow moving item, we can either sell it or use it as a substitute. We can either sell it or use it as a substitute. Sell it or use it as a substitute. Use it as a substitute. It can be sold to earn. It can be sold to earn rupees 1200. 200 into 6. It can be sold to earn 1200 rupees. To earn 1200 rupees. 200 into 6. Alternatively, this can be used as a substitute. Used as a substitute for 300 units of material E. 300 units of material E. 300 units of material E, which would save 1500. 1500 for the company. Which would save 1500 for the company. Relevant cost is higher of the two options. And hence the same would be
1500. Higher of the two options, same would be 1500. Clear?
So if the question mentioned that material E is also slow moving stock and it is already in stock, would we go with 6?
Okay, if the doubt is valid, I'll explain it, but it's a little complex doubt. So what she says is material E is a slow moving item. Material E is a slow moving item, and you want to use this as a substitute for material E. That costing 5 per unit will not be of any use there. If it is going to be used as a substitute for material E, which is a slow moving item, you have to now think what can material E do? What can material E do? Material E could be sold or could be used as a substitute of something else. So logically, a scenario will not come where a product is used as a substitute of a slow moving item. A product used as a substitute of a slow moving item will not come into picture unless there's a demand for that product, because within the company there should be a demand for that product. If there's a demand for that product, it's not a slow moving item. It's not a slow moving item. So if you're using it as a substitute for material E, this will go and be used in somewhere. It will be used in some project. Technically, if you say it cannot be used in anywhere, then what are you going to do with material E? You cannot, material E you will say can be sold, can be used as a substitute. So whatever is the relevant cost of material E will become the relevant cost here. So technically, the relevant cost of material D is nothing but the relevant cost of material E. What is relevant cost of material E? Material E is assumed to be a fast moving item which would be bought at 5 rupees. If it is in stock also, you will use it and replace it. Slow moving, I technically don't see that possibility, because then using it as a substitute doesn't come, because slow moving means you are not finding a use for that product. Now put a total cost of material. There's one more item, we'll write that later. First, they wanted total cost of material. Total cost of material. Question said find the relevant cost of material. What are the relevant cost of material? Total cost of material 15,450. Total cost of material other relevant cost and total relevant cost. Question specifically said on material, so I've put a total. Normally we calculate only relevant cost, all put together. We calculate all put together. Here specifically the question has asked what is the relevant cost of material in deciding. So relevant cost of material is 15,450. Other relevant cost is 550. Put together it is 16,000. Put together it is 16,000. Kind of problem is over, but I'll complete the decision part also. You're going to take up this project for something that mentioned 22,000. So profit and relevant revenues. Revenues is 22,000. Profit is 6,000. When you do this project in your books, you may end up even reporting losses. Okay, books there is a possibility of reporting losses, because in books you go by your historical cost. Some of the items you will go by historical cost, like material C and material D, you would go by your historical cost numbers, and that can lead to losses also in the books. Doesn't really matter. Relevant costing says whenever you are planning to take any decision, go by the relevant costs in picture. Okay, I'll now move to the next category, which is relevant cost of labor. We have done relevant cost of material. You can go back to that page where that chart was there. Page 312. Okay, now listen for some time. Listen, it can become a little tricky also. Listen. Relevant cost of labor. Labor is basically the employees who are needed to do a project. Two situations. Available, not available. I want some 100 employees. They are not there in the company, or they are there in the company. So not available, simple. Relevant cost is equal to wages
payable. Some extra recruitment cost, training cost and all can come. Sometimes question can say some recruitment cost which you are incurring or some training cost could be there, because if you have to recruit people you have to pay something to the consultants, or within the company itself you will pay some referral bonus, so extra cost can be there. Relevant cost is wages payable plus extra cost if at all anything is there. Not available is very simple. Available to scenario: busy, idle. I need 3 chartered accountants to do a job, and these 3 chartered accountants are there in the company. They could be working on some audits, or they could be free at this point of time. They could be busy or they could be idle in the company. Whatever time period I need a person for some 20 hours. So in that 20 hours also both situation is possible. He is busy for 10 hours, he is idle for 10 hours. So idle portion you analyze in the idle scenario, busy portion you analyze in the busy scenario. So whatever time you want, whether the person could be busy for some time, could be idle for some time. Let's first analyze the idle scenario, which is easy to understand. In an idle scenario, what can happen is, 2 possibilities can be there in a practical world. You have idle employees in the company. You have idle employees in the company. Nobody would like to keep idle employees in the company beyond a point. But you have idle employees in the company. They are not having any work. 2 situation can be terminated, cannot be terminated. In few industries, because of labor union problem, you cannot terminate an employee. Even work is not there, you will still continue with that employee. You will still continue with that employee till he reaches that age where he will retire and leave. Sometimes some pressure can be there. Or another example, normally your article assistant there's a termination and all will not happen. Whether work is there or not there, you will continue to work there, because that's how it is there. So the employee is not having any work, and you have 2 situations. You can either terminate the employee or you cannot terminate the employee. If an employee cannot be terminated, if an employee cannot be terminated and he is there in the factory, relevant cost is 0. Relevant cost is 0, because what you are doing is, you are in a yes scenario. When you do the project, you will tell the employee to work on the project and pay him salary. In a no scenario, you will tell the employee to remain idle and pay salary. You will tell the employee to remain idle and pay salary, because you cannot terminate him. You cannot terminate him. Unfortunately, termination option is not there. Termination option is not there. So what you will do is, you will tell the employee, I've got a project, work on the project. Now when I am telling him to work on the project, the accounts manager say employee cost so much. I tell him, please don't put employee cost. Anyway, he is sitting idle. You will put employee cost and tell this project is not to be taken up. If I don't do the project, he will sit idle and unnecessarily I will suffer a loss. So if an employee cannot be terminated, the relevant cost is 0. In this also sometimes situation can come that they may mention that when he is idle, we pay him 4 rupees per hour. But if I am telling him to work, I will pay 5 rupees per hour. That extra 1 rupee will become relevant. You will have to always imagine the yes and no scenario and then decide. Normal understanding is, if you are, whether he is working or remaining idle, if you pay him the same amount, relevant cost is 0. But if you have to pay something extra, for example, if he starts working, I will pay him some transport allowance, or I will pay him some extra allowance. Those extra whatever you pay is relevant. If you can terminate him, relevant cost is wages payable. Now understand the scenario. In a yes scenario, what will happen is, you will take up the project, tell the employee to work, pay salaries. Take up the project, tell the employee to work, pay salaries. No scenario, not take up the project, terminate the employee, don't pay salary. Not take up the project, terminate the employee and don't pay salary. So if you are not paying salary in one scenario, you are paying salary in the other scenario, relevant cost is what you pay. Relevant cost is yes minus no. So in a yes scenario, you will have to pay salary. In a no scenario, you need not pay salary to the person. So if the person can be terminated, in simple words, this is a committed cost. You can't do anything, it's an irrelevant. Committed costs are irrelevant. But for example, Bharadwaj Institute, whether I take class today or I don't take class, I'll have to pay rent. I'll have to pay rent. So it's a committed cost for us. We'll have to keep paying rent whether I take classes or not. Discretionary cost, because I'm taking classes, some extra electricity consumption is there, that is relevant. That is relevant. So if you can terminate an employee, it is a discretionary cost. It's a discretionary cost. You have a choice in your hand. You have a choice in your hand. Clear? Any doubts on this? Coming to the busy scenario, 2 parts to the busy scenario. Can be
substituted cannot be. I've got an audit of bank A, and for this I want only manager 1, manager 2, manager. I don't want anyone else in the company. I want only these 3 guys to work. Unfortunately, these guys are working on some other audits. These guys are working on some other audits. They are already doing work there. Sometimes what can happen is you tell these guys to come to this audit, and there you recruit someone else and tell them to do the work. That is called can be substituted. You can recruit someone else and tell him to work there, or you can put somebody else from another project and tell him to work there. So if there is a substitute possibility, relevant cost is cost of substitute. Relevant cost is cost of substitute. Now listen, what relevant costing ends up doing is, I am doing the relevant cost of bank A audit assignment. Bank A audit assignment. Who works on that? Manager 1, manager 2, manager 3. I am paying salary to them. That is not relevant. What is relevant is the salary which I pay to manager 4, manager 5, manager 6, who is working on some other project. Because what happens is logically, these guys were earlier working on something else. So their salary was getting debited to that audit. Now you remove those people from that audit and put them in this work. So you can do all of that. Relevant costing will say, in a yes scenario, manager 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the 6 people are needed in the company. 1, 2, 3 and you recruit 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3 you pay salary, 4, 5, 6 you pay extra salary. In a no scenario, 1, 2, 3 remain in the company and you pay salary only to 1, 2, 3. So because you took up the project, you are paying salary to manager 4, 5 and 6 who are working on some other project. I am not bothered about that. So relevant cost is cost of the substitute. Cannot be substituted. Now this is a situation where I tell 1, 2, 3 to work on this, and unfortunately if I tell them to work on this, nobody else can take their position. What I have to do? I'll have to call that other company and say we are not doing audit for you. That's the only option. I don't have a choice here. So in this case, relevant cost is lost contribution plus wages payable. Listen for a minute. I don't want to do anything. Listen for a minute. Lost contribution plus wages payable. This is a little tricky, an important thing to understand. Lost contribution plus wages payable. Let's take an example. I want this person to work on bank A. Bank A audit. He was earlier working on bank B audit. Revenue of bank B is 2 lakh. You will earn revenue of 2 lakh. Employee cost 20,000. Employee cost is a variable cost. Employee cost is 20,000. Other variable cost 1 lakh. Other fixed cost by rule, fixed costs will continue to be incurred by the company whether you take up that audit B, bank B audit, even if you discontinue. By rule, fixed costs will continue to be incurred by the company. So fixed cost is normally considered to be irrelevant. So let's not get into fixed cost. The contribution which this audit is earning is 2 lakh minus 20,000 minus 1 lakh, which is 80,000 rupees. Now what relevant costing will say is, relevant cost is equal to lost contribution plus wages payable. Lost contribution is 80,000, wages payable is 20,000, 1 lakh. Now wait, this employee cost of 20,000, I'll explain with a yes and no scenario and then link it. Yes, no, two situation. Yes means I'll have to take up the bank A audit. Revenue, I don't know the revenue of bank A audit. We are not trying to get into revenue of bank A audit, because when you calculate the relevant cost, finally you will say this much minimum revenue you want. So revenue is nil. This side you are earning 2 lakh. Employee cost, this side 20,000, this side also 20,000. Employee cost is both side 20,000. Variable cost, you will not incur variable cost. I'm not bothered about the variable cost of bank A audit. That is a separate item. You'll analyze it separately. Let's not get into that. This project was having a variable cost of 1 lakh. Fixed cost 40,000. This side also you put 40,000. This side also you put 40. So this 40,000 is irrelevant. Technically this 20 is also irrelevant. Technically this 20 is also irrelevant. The only problem is normally when they give contribution in the question, they will end up subtracting this irrelevant item. They'll end up subtracting this irrelevant item because normally contribution means sales minus variable cost. By mistake they will subtract it. If contribution was calculated by subtracting employee cost, then you need to add it back. If it was not subtracted while calculating contribution, I don't want you to add it back. I don't want you to add it back. If it was subtracted, now listen, this 20,000 is irrelevant. So this 2 lakh is my loss. This 1 lakh is my saving. Net I lose 1 lakh rupee. Net I lose 1 lakh rupee. Yes and no scenario comparison. Revenue I lose 2 lakh rupees. Variable cost I save 1 lakh rupee. Variable cost I save 1 lakh rupee. So net the relevant cost is 1 lakh. Net the relevant cost is 1 lakh. Only problem is the contribution when they give in the question, if they give contribution without mentioning anything, it means labor cost was already subtracted. It means labor cost was already subtracted. Some question they'll say the contribution earned without subtracting the labor cost is so much. If you have not subtracted, please don't add it back. Please don't add it back. I agree employee cost is irrelevant. Why it is irrelevant is in both the sides you will incur 20,000. In both the sides you will incur 20,000. So technically the 20,000 does not influence the decision. The only thing is if you have done a mistake, please correct that mistake. So question can give a number which is incorrect. So your job is to correct it by adding the employee cost. If it was not subtracted, please don't add it back. So be very clear. This lost contribution plus wages payable, you'll have to be very clear. Not available, wages payable. Available, busy, idle. Busy scenario can be substituted, cannot be substituted. Can be substituted is cost of substitute. Cannot be substituted, lost contribution plus wages payable. Write a note here or whatever way you want to write. Write a note on this alone. Lost contribution plus wages payable. Either in the book or somewhere else. If the contribution was calculated, by subtracting labor cost, then we need to add back labor cost. By subtracting labor cost, then we need to add back labor cost. We need to add back labor cost. Full stop. If it was not subtracted, then labor cost need not be added. Labor cost need not be added back. Clear? Okay, I'll take another example. Let's assume, let's take an example of project 1, project 2. Okay, yes scenario, no scenario. I decide to do project 1, okay. The project 1 comes to me and I decide that I will take up project 1. So what you do is do project 1 and say no to project 2 because these people cannot be substituted. They are busy but nobody else can do their work. Here continue with project 2. Revenue, labor cost, variable cost, other fixed costs. I'm not bothered about what revenue project 1 brings because you will add up everything and then say this much revenue it has to bring. That is the purpose of doing relevant costing. So revenue is nil, this side the revenue is 3 lakh. I'm writing inflows in bracket, okay. Outflows will be normal and inflows in bracket. Yeah, either ways you can do it. So I'm writing this in bracket. This is a 3 lakh inflow for me. Labor cost 50,000.
both the sides. Other variable cost, this side it's not there, this side it is 1,20,000. Fixed cost 40,000, 40,000. So the total here is 90. Total here is 90. This side the total is minus 3 plus 50 plus 120 plus 40 is minus 1,10,000. Sorry, minus 2 lakh. Just a minute. Minus 90, sorry. This side the total is minus 90. One side the total is plus 90. The other side the total is minus 10. Relevant cost is yes minus no. 90,000 minus of minus 90 is plus 90. Yes minus no. Always that's the formula for relevant cost. Yes minus no. 90,000 minus of minus 90 is 90 plus 90, 1,80,000 is relevant cost. 1,80,000 is relevant cost. How can you calculate this 1,80,000? Lost contribution. What is contribution? 3 lakh minus 1,20,000. 3 lakh minus 1,20,000. You did not subtract employee cost. You did not subtract employee cost. 3 lakh minus 1,20,000. 1,80,000, that's the relevant cost. You did not subtract employee cost. Sometimes you could have subtracted the employee cost, which will make the contribution 1,30,000. Which will make the contribution 1,30,000. Please add back. Please add back the employee cost if it was subtracted. So relevant cost is either 3 lakh minus 120 or 1,30,000 plus 50 or 90,000 minus of minus 90. This yes minus no works for any scenario. Material A, material B, material C, relevant cost of material. Every adjustment you can put in yes no scenario. You can put, only thing is it will take more time. It will take more time because you will have to analyze it in detail and then get to the answer. But any adjustment can be put under yes no scenario. Logically you think about the steps, what will happen, and then the answer will automatically come. Yes minus no will give you what is the relevant cost. So 90,000 minus of minus 90 will make it 1,80,000. Any doubts on this? Clear? Let's proceed to questions. Page 340, question 17. The independent scenarios, just go through the question first. Go through 17. Just read through the question. Just check the material which you have taken. One of you have mixed material, volume 1 and volume 2. One of you have taken 2 volume 1 or volume 2. Please check that. Later on you will struggle with the material. Your book should have 1 volume 1, 1 volume 2. Please check it. One of you have mixed it, I think. The balance quantity says that. One of you have mixed the books. You can change it at the end, whoever has mixed it, but let's now get to this question. Question 17, relevant cost of labor. A work requires 100 grade A workers and 100 grade B workers for a contract for a month. Monthly salary is 10,000 for grade A, 20,000 for grade B. Calculate the relevant cost in the following independent scenario. These are different scenarios, okay? Labor is presently not available and has to be specifically recruited for the contract. A fairly simple example. Labor is not available in the company, so you will have to recruit them. Relevant cost is wages payable. Let's write. Situation A. Situation A. Labor is not available. Labor is not available, and hence has to be recruited.
has to be recruited for the contract. Not available and hence has to be recruited for the contract. Relevant cost equal to wages payable. Relevant cost equal to wages payable. Wages payable 100 grade A workers, 100 into for a month, 100 into 10,000, 100 grade A workers and 100 grade B workers, 100 into 10,000 plus 100 into 20,000. These are two independent scenarios just to explain, multiple independent scenarios to explain the concept. 100 into 10,000 plus 100 into 20,000. ₹30 lakh. Labor force is always moved from job to job depending on the urgency. It is likely that the above job, if accepted, will have to be done by grade A workers alone. So I keep moving people from job to job depending on the urgency. I keep moving people from job to job depending on the urgency. If I need people in some job, I'll shift to them. I'll keep shifting them. This indirectly mean that I have lot of people in the company. I have lot of people in the company and I keep putting them wherever the work is needed. I keep putting them wherever the work comes in. I need grade A and grade B. But what I am deciding to do is I will use only grade A workers. I'll use only grade A workers. The reason for that could be I have more of idle workforce of grade A. Then how can I use for grade B? The question could have added saying that training could be provided to grade B to do the work of grade A. If you give some training, it's possible that one person does the job of the other person. If at all that data was there, I would have taken the training cost and other things, but that is not there. Job from job depending on the urgency indirectly mean there are good number of people in the company. If problem is silent, assumption is they cannot be terminated. Assumption is they cannot be terminated. If they can be terminated, the question has to clarify that. So labor moving from job to job depending on the urgency would mean there is availability of adequate labor force in the company. I get this project, I'll shift people. I get some other project, I'll shift people. So somewhere the people would be there. They could be even sitting idle or they could be working on some project. I'll keep moving them from one place to another place depending on where the work is needed. Mostly I have more grade A workers idle. I have more grade A workers idle. So I am deciding to use grade A workers more. I am deciding to use grade A. Now write. Situation B. Situation B. Labor force can move from job to job, depending on urgency. This would mean availability of adequate idle labor force. Availability of adequate idle labor force in the company. Availability of adequate idle labor force in the company. So I do have adequate idle labor force in the company. There are many people available. It is assumed that you will have to take this assumption only, you cannot take the other assumption. It is assumed that they cannot be terminated. And hence relevant cost is nil. If they can be terminated, the question has to mention that. Relevant cost is nil. And hence the relevant cost is nil. Clear?
Grade A workers have to be additionally recruited. Fairly simple. Grade A workers have to be additionally recruited. 100 into 10,000. Grade B, think and let me know 100 into how much. You think and do, we'll see it. Mostly you may go wrong also. 100 into what number? Grade B, 100 into what number? Going wrong is perfectly fine with me. I want you to go wrong, but attempt. 100 multiplied with how much for grade B? I need some numbers. So right, wrong doesn't really matter. You tell me any number. I'm not going to even discuss much on that. Why did you get it wrong, right, and all? But tell me a number, whatever comes to your mind. We discussed the concept. Now it's the application of that concept. Whatever number comes to your mind. I don't see much of calculators work, but still take it. So let me know what number do you get. 100 into what? 64. Take a one answer is 64,000. Closer. 100 into 64,000 is an answer which I've got. Not right, but it's a closer answer, at least a good try. I want others to participate. 100 into 20,000. 64 plus 20, okay, 84,000. 100 into 84, that's another answer I've got. Anything else? Anything else? Friends, so many people are there. Please participate. That's the benefit of face-to-face class. I see the instant participation, and I want that to happen. So please give it a try. Right, wrong doesn't really matter. I'm not going to discuss anything. Even if you give me a random answer also, it is fine. But you will have to give it a try. Okay, 84. Any other answer? 64, 84 are the two numbers I've heard. Anything else? Okay, labor cost is 20,000. Okay, you earn a contribution of 3.2 per rupee of direct wages. 3.2 per rupee of direct wages. So contribution will be 64,000. Contribution will be 64,000. Ignore relevant costing, which I have taught you now. When I say contribution of 64,000, you would have learnt in marginal costing. Would you have subtracted labor cost or no in that? You would have subtracted the labor cost. Normally you subtract labor cost. Labor cost is a variable cost. Labor cost is a variable cost, and you would have subtracted, and there's nothing wrong in that. There's nothing wrong in subtracting labor cost. So indirectly, this 3 rupees 20 paise is after subtracting 1 rupee of labor cost. This 3 rupees 20 paise is after subtracting 1 rupee of labor cost. So it's lost contribution plus wages payable, 64 plus 20. 64 plus 20, because it has been subtracted. See, when you tell answer is 64,000, and now when I explain 84, you'll appreciate it better. You will understand what mistake you have made. That is where I want the participation. Right, wrong doesn't really matter. In fact, many a times I tell students to write the answer in the notebook and then correct it. It doesn't matter. You're not going to have a perfect notebook. Nobody is bothered about whether your notebook is perfect or not, because at the end of the day, anyway, you have the solution book where you can refer the solution. Your notebook can have so many mistakes. I will be very happy. You write answers. When I say at least you write the answer, make a mistake, correct it with a different color pen. All that is perfectly fine. That is what I want you to do in the class. I want you to make more and more mistakes in the class rather than making a mistake in the final exam. So lost contribution is 64,000. Normal understanding is contribution would have been after subtracting the labor cost. That's a normal understanding. That's a normal understanding. Sometimes the question will say yielding a contribution bracket without subtracting labor cost or excluding the labor cost portion. They'll mention specifically like that. Then you need not add back that 20,000. You need not add back that 20,000. So here lost contribution plus wages payable. Lost contribution is 64,000. Wages payable is 20,000. Wages payable is 20. Put together it is 84,000. Let's write. Situation C. Situation C, grade A workers have to be recruited. Grade A workers have to be recruited.
have to be recruited. Relevant cost is wages payable. Wages payable. Relevant cost equal to 100 into 10,000. 100 into 10,000. 10 lakh. Grade A workers have to be recruited. Relevant cost is wages payable. Grade B workers are extremely busy and are currently earning a contribution. They have said busy. Busy means we check two things: can be substituted, cannot be substituted. Question has not mentioned anything on substitute, so it is cannot be substituted only. If question doesn't give me a data on substitute possibility, I'll have to take cannot be substituted. So grade B workers are available, comma, busy and cannot be substituted. Available, comma, busy and cannot be substituted. Cannot be substituted. Relevant cost equal to lost contribution plus wages payable. Lost contribution plus wages payable. Lost contribution per employee. Lost contribution per employee is equal to 20,000 into 3 rupees 20 paise. 3 rupees 20 paise is the contribution for every rupee of direct wage. 3 rupees 20 paise is the contribution for every rupee of direct wages. For every rupee of direct wages, 20,000 into 3.2, 64,000. 20,000 into 3.2, 64,000. This contribution would have been calculated post subtraction of labor cost. And hence labor cost needs to be added back. This is an implied assumption, okay? Because if they say contribution, it's implied that labor cost would have been subtracted. Labor cost needs to be added back. Relevant cost per employee is equal to 64,000 plus 20,000. 64 plus 20. 64 plus 20. Relevant cost of 100 workers, 84,000 into 100. 84 lakhs, 84,000 into 100. Clear? It's an implied assumption that contribution would have been calculated post subtraction of your labor cost. That's an implied assumption. Clear? Any doubts on this? Now, every problem and every theory question also, there will be a summary which is available after the question. This will help you in revising this question faster. Whenever you want to do your last day before exam revision, you can kind of do with this summary which will be there at the end of the question, and any question which you wish to see it fully, you can mark those questions. So some problems, if you wish to see it fully, you please mark it. If somebody wants to revise this question, this is the information, that's all. With this you will be able to revise. Here also this is the information. Relevant cost for a labor which is unavailable, wages payable, available. Labor can move from job to job depending on urgency, would indicate that labor is currently idle. That's kind of an understanding from this question. So this will help you in doing a quick revision day before exam. Go through 18. go through the problem.
Okay. A company accepts a 1-year contract which will require 4 skilled employees. They could be recruited on a 1-year contract by paying some 40,000 per employee. Some manager will supervise them who is paid some 60,000. Supervision will take 10% of this manager's time. Instead of recruiting new employees, company can retrain some of the existing employees. Who currently earn 30,000 per year. The training cost will be so much, and if these employees were used, they would be replaced at a cost of 1 lakh. Calculate the relevant cost. Now, this is a situation where multiple things will work in that chart which I said. First, I can say labor is not available. You recruit them, you find out the relevant cost. Second, you can say labor is available, busy, and can be substituted. Retrain some of the existing employees who can be substituted at a cost of something. Both options are available. One, I can say they are not available. So you go ahead with recruitment option. Second option is they are available, busy. Retrain some of the existing employees. Available, they are busy on something. So you put them from that project to this project. When you do them, you will have to substitute them. From the market, and if these employees were used, they would be replaced at a cost of 1 lakh rupee. So both options are there. There is a recruitment option and there is a training option. Obviously, I'll choose whichever is lower cost for me. And that's the relevant cost. I have a choice of either going for recruitment option. The second choice is going for training option. So now write recruitment option. Or before that, the company has the following two options for getting employees. Recruitment of new employees. Training of existing employees. Recruitment option. I'll do it in that yes or no scenario. Okay. Project, you can write this in a minute. Yes, that is, you take up the project, you will recruit employees. You don't take up the project, you will not. I'm not comparing recruitment and training as of now. I'm just calculating the relevant cost of the recruitment option. So project, yes and no. If you take up the project, you will recruit employees. How much you have to pay them? How much you have to pay to the employees? How much? 40,000 into 4, 1,60,000. If I'm not recruiting them, I'll not pay them. Listen for some time. 1,60,000 and 0. There is some supervision to be done. They said the employees will be supervised by an existing manager who earns how much? 60,000 per annum. It's expected that supervision will take 10% of the manager's time. In manager cost, in a yes scenario, how much you will pay the supervisor? 60,000. In a no scenario, we'll pay 60,000 in both the scenario. Whether if you recruit the employees, you will tell him to do supervision, pay 60,000. If you don't recruit the employee, you will tell him not to do the supervision, pay 60,000. Unless the question tells extra saying that if the manager comes for the supervision, we have to lose something in some other place, then that can become relevant. If the manager comes to this place and supervises, you have to pay him extra 5,000. Something they mention, it is fine. Both the side it is 60,000. Both the side it is 60,000. Supervisor charges is a committed cost here. Is a committed cost. In short, 10% of the supervisor time is idle as of now. 10% of the time is technically idle now. That is why they are saying he will be able to do supervision. They are saying he will be able to do supervision. How is he able to do supervision? Is because he is idle now. He is idle now. And obviously I will not terminate because only 10% is idle, 90% is useful. Sometimes the question can say the wages 1,60,000, you will need a new supervisor to be recruited. You will have to pay him 60,000 and he will spend only 10% time on this. He will spend only 10%, 60,000 this side, 0 other side. 60,000 this side, 0 other side. Entire 60,000 is relevant unless question tells me what are we going to get with that 90% time. Something has to be given with that 90%, saying that he will do this, he will save this. So all that I will take into consideration. But as of now, 60,000 is there in both the scenario. 60,000 now, right? Put a chart like this. Project yes, no. Project yes, no. Wages 160 and 0. Manager 60 and 60. Project yes, no. Wages 1,60,000 0. 1,60,000 0. Manager 60,000 60,000. Relevant cost 220 minus 60. Relevant cost is 2,20,000 minus 60,000. Yes minus no. Relevant cost is 2,20,000 minus 60,000. 2,20,000 minus 60,000. I could have directly written wages payable as the answer, that's all. In simple words, it's only wages payable. Those extra items are not impacting the cost. 1,60,000. The other option I have is going for training of existing employee. Now listen for some time. Training of existing employee. Project yes, no. Yes, no. In a yes scenario, see, this existing employees are being paid a salary of 30,000 per year. My assumption is you need 4 employees. You need 4 employees and they are paid 30,000 per year. The training cost would cost 15,000 and if these employees were used, they would be replaced at a cost of 1 lakh. So listen, existing employee will work on project. Existing employee will work on project. No scenario, existing employee will work on their existing work. Whatever is their existing work, they were doing something. Let them continue to do that. Let them continue that. Existing employees will work on my project. Or the existing employee will continue to do whatever they were doing. Now, whatever they were doing also has to continue in the S side. It also has to continue because that existing work can't stop. So what will happen is new employees will do existing work. You will have to bring someone from the market and tell them, please do this existing work. They were earlier maintaining books of accounts. So I'll tell now you maintain books of accounts because these guys are pushed on to something else. In a yes scenario, you will have to pay 120 and 1 lakh. You will have to pay 1,20,000 as well as 1 lakh. In a no scenario, you will pay only 120. This is irrelevant. In short, the relevant cost is cost of the substitute. It is basically labor available, busy, can be substituted. Labor available, busy, can be substituted. If they were idle, then there was no need for that substitution. They would not have mentioned that they could be replaced at a cost. So they are technically busy with something. In a yes scenario, I also will have something called as training cost of 15,000. This side no training cost. This is existing employee salary. This is new employee salary. And this is training cost. In short, relevant cost of an employee who is available, busy and can be substituted. Is cost of the substitute. This guy is working on this project and we are paying him 1,20,000, but relevant cost says only 1 lakh is relevant. Relevant cost says only 1 lakh is relevant. With the time, all these adjustments will happen, but whenever you're analyzing a new project, practically this is what an organization has to do. It has to do this analysis, and the analysis says the existing employee salary is not the relevant cost, it's the salary of the new employees whom you are planning to recruit, here. Now write recruitment option, project yes, no. Project yes, no. S side right. Project yes, no. S side write 2 lines first. Existing employee will work on project. Existing employee will work on project. Existing employee will work on project. Existing employee will work on project plus new employee will do existing work. New employees will do existing work. New employees will do existing work. New employees will do existing work. Other side, existing employee will do existing work. Existing employee will do existing work. Whatever work is there, let it continue to be done by them. They will continue to do this work. Existing employees will do existing work. Then arrow mark down 3 items in the side. Existing employee salary, new employee salary, training cost. Existing employee salary, don't put that cross mark and all. Existing employee salary, new employee salary and training cost. One lakh 20, 1 lakh and 15,000. Other side 120, 0 and 0. Let me know if there are doubts here. 235, 120, yes minus no. 235 and 120, yes minus no. 2,35,000 and 1,20,000. S minus no, the relevant cost is 1,15,000. S minus no, the relevant cost is 1,15,000. This is how every example you will have to analyze. Yes, S minus no will give you the relevant cost of any scenario. Any scenario, suddenly you see a problem where it does not fit in the chart. There will be one adjustment in material cost. You will understand it later, which will not fit in that. Available, not available, fast moving, slow moving, it will not fit in that. So when you do it in yes no scenario, you will get to the answer. Any adjustment, if you analyze in yes no scenario, logically think what will happen. Will the existing employees continue? Yes, they will continue. Will you recruit new employee? Yes, I'll have to recruit new employee. On the other side, will the existing employee continue? Yes. Will I recruit new employee? No, I'll not recruit the new employee. So this side 120 plus 100 plus 1 lakh plus 15, other side only 120. The difference is the relevant cost. Any doubts on this? Now, ignoring relevant costing for the time being, if I was to make a decision, see, when I did that material cost, I said higher of the two, cost of the substitute or sale value, because there if I had asked you what will you do, you will try to do best of the two, because you will try to earn more money or save more money. Here both are spending, both are amount spent, there is no saving. So if I tell you what will you do, will you go for recruitment option or the training option, you will say training option, because training is cheaper, hence the relevant cost is the cost of the training option. The relevant cost is the cost. This does not fit in the chart way if I do, because both options are there. Both option available is also there, not available is also there. So we analyze the not available 1,60,000, available 1,15,000. Finally, relevant cost of labor, or you can write the company will go for retraining of existing employees, and hence the relevant cost is 1,15,000. Relevant cost is 1,15,000. Relevant cost is 1,15,000. Okay, I think there are other adjustments, but I'll continue in the next session. First class, I'm ending it a little early. Next class onwards, it will continue till 9 o'clock. So I'll end it with this. If there are doubts or anything, you can let me know. If any suggestion you want to give, that also you can let me know. Either you can give it individually or you can give it now also.